Ben 10, The Ultimate Predator. Chapter 1, CH0, Origin and the Majestic Multiverse. MC asks for his soul to be turned into pieces so he can experience living in all the multiverses he likes, and there isn't a limit to his souls. The soul pieces can also fuse together, they're not separated permanently. 2. All soul pieces can make a few wishes. But not anything big. Just asking for what power they want to start with, their physical appearance, these things. 3. Every soul piece is a singularity, and no being other than the crow ROB can make another one of MC, except MC himself. 4. Each soul piece to be a living paradox. Meaning that basically the past, present and future MC are all disconnected. Hurting or even killing a past MC won't affect present MC at all, being would it affect the future MC. 5. For all records and memories of MC's existence in his previous life to be completely erased. For no one to remember him. Not his parents, siblings, relatives, friends and anybody else. So that they won't miss him, and so that he wouldn't feel guilty for leaving them. But then Crow, who gets an even better idea. Which is to turn MC into an actual multiverse. A parasitic multiverse which feeds off of other multiverses to grow more powerful by sending soul pieces to them to parasitize off of them. And that's the wish part of CH0, the important part that's actually related to the stories. Now have a fun read. CH 0.1, ROB. Where am I? Someone. Or to be exact, something groaned out. It was humanoid, but it didn't seem to be human. It was just light. It seemed to be a young male, but was just a golden light. As he gained his vision, he looked around, but was shocked to the point of not being shocked. Wherever he looked, and as far as his eyes could see, it was just space. He didn't see any land, buildings, or anything. The only thing that he could see was the empty void with countless stars in the horizon. What? He looked, and looked, but didn't see anything but the cold and unforgiving space. He was on the verge of panicking. In fact, he thought he was gonna have the toughest panic attack of his entire life. However, he knew that he shouldn't panic. He knew that the more weird and intense a situation is, he has to stay calm no matter what. But he was struggling. He could feel how he was shaking, how hard his heart was beating, and how he was starting to sweat. He couldn't be blamed either. He just opened his eyes and he was suddenly in the middle of the damn space. That was definitely something to panic for. But he persisted, took a deep breath and exhaled. And why am I not suffocating? He frowned, rubbing his temples in confusion. However, just when he saw his hand, he was left even more speechless. Why in the hell am I the glowing man meme? His mouth was open in disbelief as he looked at himself. His confusion was growing by the second, and so was his panicking. Suddenly, there was another voice in the void. Hearing another voice, he jumped and immediately turned to look. But he just saw the same darkness and stars. Up here, Ollie. He heard the voice again. This time, from above. As the boy, Ollie, raised his head to look, he noticed a shape. It was like just a small part of the space was shaped. Well, small in comparison to the space. In front of him, it was as big as a 2- or 3-story building. When he raised his head, he finally saw what had spoken. It was a crow. Not a normal crow though. Aside from its size, the most noticeable thing was that it had 4 glowing eyes and was actually space-themed. It looked just like Alien X from Ben 10, but just in the shape of a huge crow. What in the... Ali's lips parted, seriously speechless. But his disbelief grew even more when the crow seemed to smirk nonchalantly. I would have said good morning or something, but time doesn't really have much of a meaning here. Who are you? What are you? He asked in slight shock, and the crow answered with a smirk, I think you should know what I am. Haven't you already heard of the word ROB? Well, I'm an omniversal being. You're dead, and I pulled you here. You don't remember because I erased the memory of you dying so you wouldn't be traumatized. Hearing his words, Ali's brain didn't completely register. I'm what? And the crow answered, dead. Dead as hell. A moment of silence went by, and a single sentence left Ali's lips, oh. Causing the omniversal being to get confused this time. What? Oh? That's it? You hear that you're dead, and that's all you say? Shouldn't you be panicking or something? In fact, why do you look like you're calming down? In answer, Ollie shrugged and spread his arm, well, I don't know. I mean, that kinda explains this whole thing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't normally just wake up in space. So this is either a dream, or I'm really dead. And I don't really know why I should panic about dying. It's the most normal thing anyway. I've never been afraid of death, since it was going to happen eventually. A look of realization appeared on the 4-eyed crow's face as he nodded, oh, you're one of those kinda people. All right. I like you already. I got lucky this time. After glancing around, Ollie raised a curious eyebrow. This time? Whatcha mean? Causing the crow to sigh in annoyance, you're not the first person I decided to bring here. Just before you, I had brought a few more. Sigh, unfortunately, all of them were panicking and crying. Screaming, wailing and cursing me. A few of them were seriously freaking annoying. I had brought them here separately like you, but one after another were just disappointments. With curled lips, Ollie nodded. Sorry for asking then. Guess you really got unlucky. So what did you do with them? And the Omniversal being immediately answered, erased them from existence. Silence filled the place again. Ollie gulped and nodded with curled lips. Alright, I think I should really mind my manners now. The crow nodded with a sigh of his own. Yeah, just don't annoy me, and we're all good. There was actually one that panicked a bit, but calmed down after a little while. But I disliked her even more than the other ones. Bitch immediately asked, what gender do you identify as? And I didn't even spare a moment, just erased her right there and then. This time, instead of panicking or being afraid, Ollie actually gave him a thumbs up. Thank you. I like you. Those bitches are seriously fucking annoying. Alright. Anyway, is this going where I think it's going? He asked, slightly excited and hopeful, causing the Omniversal being to chuckled in amusement. Yeah, it is. Consider yourself lucky, young Ollie. Because I'm planning to reincarnate you with 5 wishes. Ollie's eyes widened. 5. Seriously? Why so many? Crow shrugged. 1 is too few, 2 is weird, 3 is overused, 4 is weird too, so it's 5. So go ahead, make your wishes. Ollie smiled, pumping his fist in celebration. Hell yeah. However, his smile disappeared when confusion took over. Hold on. Before we get to that, can I ask you something? It's not something big, just something that I want to know. Go ahead. Crow gestured with his huge wing, and Ollie nodded. Why? Why do you want to reincarnate someone? And why me? Please, please, don't tell me it's because of karma or something. Because I'm sure that I haven't done anything that would give this kind of karma. Crow shook his wing as he nodded in annoyance. No. Hell no. That's all bullshit. The only reason why I picked you is because I just chose a being randomly. I had chosen the previous ones randomly too. Heck, do you think only humans get to meet omniversal beings and get reincarnated? The being just before you was a dragon. But he didn't get reincarnated because he acted like he's some big shit and actually tried to attack me, so I erased him. As for why I'm doing this, I'm bored. There is really no motive behind it, I'm just bored as hell. Believe it or not, things can get boring around here even if you're omnipotent. I wanted some entertainment, so I decided to just reincarnate someone after I woke up from a long-ass nap and saw that it's a late trend. And for your last question, why you? As I said, it's because of randomness, nothing else. In fact, why do so many people think it has anything to do with karma? That's utter bullshit. Why the hell would we care about your karma and nonsense? Ollie nodded as he rolled his eyes in annoyance. I know, right? It's seriously freaking dumb. Why would beings that are literally omnipotent and can do anything they want focus on the actions of simple mortals? Exactly. Crow pointed with his wing, like, put yourselves in our place. No offense to you, my little friend, but humans and basically every other beings are literally less than atoms in our eyes. At least atoms have some importance, but most beings don't at all. And it's not just mortals either. We don't care about immortals and almighty beings of multiverses either. And that karma is just a whole nother bullshit. Like, do you think good people or even perfect people are rare on the big picture? So you know about universes, multiverses, omniverse and believe in them, right? I mean, look at your situation. Well, think of it like this. Let's not even consider the other beings in common universes and let's just focus on humans. Just on the Earth of your universe, there are nearly 8 billion people, right? Now combine that many people with another universe. That's 16 billion already. Combine the people of 100 universes. That's 800 billion. Do you think among that many people, good people are rare? And we're just saying only 100 universes. There are an infinite number of universes in each multiverse. That's an infinite number of people right there. Combine that with the humans of other multiverses, how many are there? See? When you actually think about it, it's utter nonsense. Alright, sorry for ranting there. I just don't like it when an omnipotent being makes useless excuses just to not say, oh, I closed my eyes and picked someone. Because believe me, that's what happens. If they're going to reward a good person, they'll put them in paradise, or heaven, or Valhalla and whatnot. Why give them another trip down a road of pain of life? Anyway, let's get to wishing already. I'm curious as to what you will wish for. Ollie nodded seriously. As he put his hand under his chin, he began to think before the omniversal being spoke. Also, take as much time as you want. My perception of time is extremely different from yours. For you, 1,000,000 or even 1,000,000,000 years is a shit ton. For me, it's like I just took a deep breath. Alright, thanks. Ollie nodded and got to thinking. But it didn't actually take long to decide. After just a little while, not even half an hour later, he finally decided, "Alright, I've decided." Crow smiled. "Alright, let's get to it then. Also, here." He gently flapped a wing, and 5 numbers, from 1 to 5, appeared going down in the air. "Your wishes will be written here, so you can change it if you don't like something in them." Ollie nodded calmly as he raised his hand and said his wishes while raising a finger with each wish. "Alright, let's begin. 1. I want my soul and existence or whatever to be separated into any number I want, with each one of them going to a different universe. We are all connected, and can even sense each and join to become one being later on. I just want to experience everything. Also, I can separate them to even more numbers if I want to by contacting you. And there is no limit to how many soul pieces I can be separated into. 2. I want each and every one of my soul pieces to be able to also make a few wishes. 3. I want each soul piece to be a singularity, and no being other than you can make another me except myself. 4. I want each soul piece to be a living paradox. Meaning that basically the past, present, and future me are all disconnected. Hurting or even killing a past me won't affect me at all, being would it affect the future me. 5. Can you please? He was fine till the last wish. But when it came to the last wish, his emotions came crashing down because of what he wanted to wish for. He smiled sadly, as tears began to run down his eyes. He lowered his head, unable to bring out the sentence. But if he wanted to rest in peace and forget about his past life, he had to make that wish. Seeing his sadness, the wise crow gently asked, "If you can't say it, do you want me to read your mind?" Normally, Ali would definitely refuse something like that. But he knew that bringing out that sentence would truly put him into a state of despair for a little while. He nodded, his smile trembling as more and more tears came down. After a moment, the omniversal being nodded with a sigh, but smiled gently. "Alright then, I will grant all of your following wishes. 1. Soul turned into pieces and sent to different universes. 2. A few wishes for all of your soul pieces. 3. Singularity. 4. Living paradox. 5. For all records and memories of your existence in your previous life to be completely erased. For no one to remember you. Not your parents, siblings, relatives, friends, and anybody else." With a shaky form, the young man nodded with tears running down his face. Thank you. Appreciate it." As he broke down in tears and sobs, the omniversal being brought a wing to his head, and gently patted his head with a soft voice. "It's okay, child. Let it all out. There is no shame in crying and showing weakness. I will be here, so no need to worry. We will begin the actual wish granting after you've calmed down." Ch0.2, The Creation of Universes. Sniff. "Thanks, I'm fine now." After letting out the tears inside for a while, the young boy finally calmed down. Although he was sad, many times more because of the choice he had decided to make, he knew that it was definitely the right thing to do for himself. If he hadn't, he knew for sure that the guilt would eat away at him forever. He wasn't one to forget about emotions, and he was sure that his family and close ones mourning his death without knowing about his lucky situation would be sickeningly sad for them. So, although very sad and rather regretful, he was still happy that they wouldn't be sad because of him. He didn't care about being sad or angry himself. He'd just take it out on someone else to make himself feel better. "I'm sorry about that." Having calmed down mostly, he grew a bit embarrassed for crying his eyes out in front of a complete stranger. But Crow simply shook his head lightly, a small and gentle smile on his face. "It's alright, don't worry about it. Although I don't care much about the multiverses and the being inside of them, I still wouldn't be cold and emotionless if I met one in person. Especially not if he or she hasn't annoyed me. I'm omnipotent, now a dick. Thanks." He was still a bit embarrassed, but Crow's words still managed to calm him down somewhat. Letting out a light chuckle, he looked up at the huge bird. "You know, I wouldn't have expected you, an almighty and omnipotent being, to actually be caring to me, a normal mortal. A dead one at that. In fact, I would have expected you to be all arrogant and an asshole. That's how it usually goes, right?" Crow shrugged with a smile. "It's a personality-wise thing. Personal behavior, manners and personalities aren't unique to mortals. Luckily for you, although I don't act like a kind saint or grandfather, I'm not a dick either. There are other beings like me with the personality you just mentioned though. Not very likable fellas." Ollie nodded. "Ooh yeah, I get you. I guess I got really lucky, huh?" Crow nodded. "We both did. I finally got a soul that's not an asshole. You found yourself an omnipotent being that's not an asshole." Ollie grinned Leonardo DiCaprio style. "I guess you can say that. Birds of a feather flock together?" Crow deadpanned. "A dad joke? Really? You meet an omnipotent being, and you have the balls to make dad jokes with him?" Ollie laughed smugly. "Hey, dad jokes are eternal. And it only proves that I've got good taste." Crow rolled his eyes in amusement. "Alright, fair enough. It is interesting that the kid I'm choosing can make jokes with me instead of being afraid of me though." Ollie wiggled his eyebrows. "You betcha. Nothing like a good old dad joke for some bonding." As Crow rolled his eyes again, he coughed. Anyway, before granting my wishes and sending me off, can I ask some questions? It's not every day that I meet an omnipotent being, and I'm really curious about a few things. Crow nodded gently. Go ahead. Ask whatever you want. Ali, alright, so I'm gonna ask this first since I know I'll forget it in a second or two if I don't do it now. You're a lot more expressionate than I'd expect from an omnipotent being. Most people would expect beings like you to be stone cold and without emotions. Since, to be fair, emotions can be considered weaknesses by cringe people. Crow, not true at all. Where do you think your emotions come from? Although we didn't create you humans or any other beings by hand, and you just evolved into existence, just like how every other race had been born, we still did plan it out. Think of it as an automatic equation with you being the answer, the final step. Anyway, for you to have something, we must know of it first to put it there, no? So emotions didn't just pop out of nowhere, and aren't just for humans. We had them first, and the Omniverse had them even before us. Emotions aren't weaknesses, they're what makes life enjoyable. Ali, ooh, I see. Wait. So does that mean humans did evolve from monkeys? Not some sort of religious, right? Crow, nope. Religion is just a way of people asking for help from someone. A way of coping in desperate situations. Which aren't few, as you know. But no, religions aren't real. If they were, why are there so many of them? If an omnipotent, emphasize on the omnipotent being, wanted to create a religion, do you honestly think just a single planet, one the size of Earth at that, wouldn't only have that being to worship? Anyways, final answer, no. The religions aren't real. They might be, for certain multiverses or universes. But regarding the entire creation, aka the real Omniverse, no, they're not real. Ali, oh, gotcha. Alright, can you please explain to me this whole Omniverse and omniversal beings thing? Crow, yeah sure. It's only to be expected that you're curious about it. Well, alright, I'll explain. But to do that, we'll need to go back to the beginning. To the beginning of it all. The beginning that created everything, and led to creation itself. To the past. A past so long ago that is long even for me. And that's something, since I've already told you about my perception of time. You see, at first, there was nothing. Absolute nothingness. And by that, I mean literally nothing. Not a void, not even nothingness, not blank, no nothing. I mean, as in even the word empty couldn't be used to describe it, because nothing was there. Yet at the same time, that nothingness, that emptiness was everything as well. Don't misunderstand, it wasn't like some sort of dumb Shenxia story of there being higher realms and bullshit to prolong the story, such as Marshall Peak of your past life which had gone for 3,500 fucking chapters because of that. No, that nothingness was the highest realm, lowest realm, and everything in between. There was nothing beyond, nor beside it. It was everything, yet nothing. However, that same nothingness, after who knows how long, gained its own consciousness. Since it was nothing, it would rather be everything instead. But even after that, it still wasn't enough. Although it was everything, and didn't have anything equal to it because of being everything, it felt lonely. The saddening emptiness, and extreme loneliness of being a single being without anything else being there, made it feel extremely lonely. So, it decided that if there wasn't anything, it would just make them. And so, the first omniversal being was born. It didn't take much effort for it to happen either. Not something you'd expect since it was the creation of an omnipotent being only below the omniverse. However, that's what omnipotent means. All it took was for the emptiness to wish it, think it, imagine it, and it became true. Happy and delighted for no longer being lonely, it began to create more children for itself. But wanting to experience more fun, and wanting to share the same feeling with its children, it chose to give the task of creating life to its children, and would reward them for succeeding. The children, experiencing the fun their parent wanted them to experience, decided to make it even more fun. So inside of a single life that was always weaker than them, because of the limitation of not being able to create something equal to themselves, which only the emptiness could do, they decided to put quantity over quality. And so, it turned into creating races, then planets, then leading all the way to creating universes and multiverses. Ali, oh, I see. Thanks for explaining, it makes sense, I guess. But, I kinda knew that already, and I feel like you knew that I knew about it. I just wanted to clarify if it was anything different than what I knew. But there isn't anything different. So, isn't this the hand theory mentioned in the DC comics? Crow smiled in amusement. It is. But do you know how this knowledge ended up in someone's hand? Sure, imagination is a very powerful weapon, but the chances of it being wrong or off are high. So how come it matches so well with what I told you? Well, that's because we, the omniversal beings, thought it would be fun to put this knowledge in some people's minds. If they believed it, good, but nothing changes. If they didn't believe it, once again, nothing changes. And to assure you, no, not me, you, the Omniverse or any of the omniversal beings are fictional characters. It's kind of complicated before I explain something else. But I'll give you a little rundown of things so you won't get nervous. How many universes and multiverses are there?
Infinite.
In every multiverse, there is an infinite amount of universes, and their numbers grow infinitely more with each second for reasons that I'll tell you about. How many multiverses are there? As I've said, infinite as well. Each second, either an already existing omniversal being creates a new multiverse, or the Omniverse creates a new one to start making its own multiverses. So basically, both universes and multiverses are growing infinitely larger by every second. Now, why did I tell you? Simple, in this infinite existence, if you think, it exists. If you imagine it, it's somewhere either in your universe, multiverse, or another multiverse. So basically, the same writers, animation creators and movie directors that are writing this book, your story, are actually characters of the book of another multiverse. That's what infinite means. There is no impossible unless the Omniverse or an omniversal being steps in. And it isn't just one universe who is writing your story either. Among the infinite number of beings, there is obviously an unending number of beings who tell yours or another being's tales. Basically, you aren't a character in a book, nor is there a writer for your book. If that was the case, all of you, including all the writers, would be characters in a book, while the Omniverse and the omniversal beings are the writers. While you are the characters, we're the readers and the watchers. So, yeah, don't get an existential crisis over it. Like, right now, an infinite number of writers and spectators are watching your story unfold. As I said a while ago, it will make a lot more sense once I explain something else. So stick around for the next chapter or episode, folks. Ali's lore is gonna take an interesting turn. CH0.3, Multiverses and the Wish. Geez, you're going to make me nervous if you make me notice some other beings are just watching me. Ollie tightened his lips, while Crow smirked teasingly. Not some, but an infinite number of beings. Remember, an infinite number of writers and creators are recording your story, so what about their readers, watchers and whatnot? Thanks, you just helped so much. He replied sarcastically, making him chuckle. You're welcome. But don't worry, you'll learn to ignore them real quick. After all, haven't you lived your entire life thinking that one or multiple almighty and omnipresent beings were watching you and everybody else all the time? True. He shrugged before smiling. So can I continue asking questions? Crow nodded. Ask until you're satisfied. Nodding, Ollie thought for a moment. Oh, you said you'll tell me about universes growing infinitely and all. Can you explain now? Crow, sure. Tell me, how do you think a universe is created, and how the number of universes in a multiverse continues to grow with every passing second? Ollie joked. I don't know, is it automatic or something? Crow, exactly. Ollie, what? Crow, the process of a new universe being created is an automatic feature of every multiverse. And it's like this, if there's multiple possible outcomes, a new universe will be created for each of those other outcomes. Let me put it as simply as possible. Imagine you're still a normal living human, now raise your hand. Ooh, okay. He raised his glowing hand, and Crow made a snapping sound with his feathers. There, an infinite number of universes was just created. Confusing the teenager, care to explain? Crow, let me ask you something, what other ways could you raise your hand? You could raise it slightly lower. You could raise it even higher than you did. You could raise it slightly to the right. You could raise it 1 millimeter to the left. You could have just not raised it and asked me why I told you to raise your hand. You could have just joked around and raised it behind instead. You could have raised it to the right instead of raising it straight up. Since you're just a normal human, you could have suddenly had a heart attack and died. You could have choked on your own spit and died. See? There were an infinite number of possible outcomes for just that mere action. And for everything that could have happened instead of you raising your hand like you did, a new universe was created where what didn't happen for you happened there. Everything before that was exactly the same, but it grew different from that point. And this happens to everybody and everything, even animals and random objects. So when I say growing by an infinite amount every second, you can imagine what I mean. Ollie, oh, I get it now. Wait, what if I had the sudden urge to strangle someone death? Crow, well, I think you can imagine what happened in that new universe with the knowledge I just gave you. Ollie, fuck. So even the thoughts and urges to do something that I refused to do became reality in a new universe? Crow, unfortunately, yup. Ollie, that's not good news. That's not good news at all. Crow, yup. And imagine what happened to everybody who had the sudden urge to shit their pants but managed to prevent that. Especially in public. Ollie covered his eyes. Oh my fucking god, you're just making it worse. Crow laughed. Yeah, and it's not just one universe either. After all, in one universe, they could have stopped halfway, in another one they shat 1 milliliter less, in another one they made such a mess the entire street was locked up, the options go forever. Ollie sobbed. What do you mean options? Those are just nightmares. Can we please move on? You're about to traumatize me more than my own fucking death did. Crow pat his back. Don't worry, you're safe, you've got nothing to worry about. At least no longer. Ollie, I don't. Crow, nope. Singularity, remember? Ollie was relieved beyond imagination. Oh my lord, you have no idea how happy I am to have made that wish, bro. Crow, no, I can. Omniversal, remember? Ollie, you know what I mean. Crow chuckled, yeah, I know, I'm just messing with you. By the way, about your wishes. I actually have an idea that I think you'll like. Ollie, you do. Crow, So we were going to go with me keeping your main soul and sending pieces of it across the Omniverse, right? But how about instead of staying with me, your main soul has its own space in the Omniverse? Ollie slowly smiled. I don't get it with you being cryptic, but I feel like I'm going to like the idea. Continue. Crow smirked. I'm saying, how about I turn your main soul into a multiverse of itself? Whoa, hold on, homeboy. What? He exclaimed, but his smile showed his true feeling. You want to what? Causing Crow to chuckle. What, you don't like the idea? His mouth went agape, speechless. I love it. That's the sickest thing ever. But why the sudden idea though? Crow, I just thought that instead of just experiencing the different multiverses, since you're already going to get all kinds of powers in each one to begin with, why don't we turn your main soul into a multiverse where it can copy the powers of other multiverses and grow by it? Like a parasitic multiverse. You're already planning to go to places like the Marvel and DC multiverse and such, so why don't you copy their powers and make yourself even stronger than all of them? After all, there are many powers in the Omniverse. As long as you grow strong enough in the omniversal scale, you can even surpass them. Ollie grinned. After all, that's how parasites are. Crow, exactly. So? What do you think? Wanna do it? Ollie's glowing lips turned into an excited, wild, and violent smile. Do you even need to ask? And so, the parasitic multiverse, the majestic multiverse, was born. And along with it, millions upon billions and trillions of little weak parasites that would gnaw away at other multiverses to grow stronger and stronger, until the powers they brought back to the source let them surpass what they had parasitized. Chapter 2, CH1, A New Start, E1 Hull Damage, 20%. In an epic battle in space between two spaceships, one humongous compared to the other, a robot controlling the attacking spaceship, but the systems still operational. Sitting upon a throne in his main residence, the warlord, the intergalactic conqueror, the most feared chimera sui generis in the universe, the menace himself, Vilgax slammed his fist on the armrest. I have come too far to be denied. The Omnitrix shall be mine, along with the power of the Nemetrix, and there is not a being in the galaxy that dare stand in my way. After hours of chasing after the blue and green spaceship, they were finally able to strike a vital part. Their propulsion systems have been destroyed. The robot reported, and Vilgax sat at the edge of his seat from the impatience and anticipation. Prepare to board. I want the Omnitrix now. Boom. But just as he stopped talking, a laser beam struck the throne room, sending him flying away from the explosion. But being Vilgax, the most menacing being in the universe, A/N, at least in the original, before he was downgraded like shit, of course he didn't die. His spaceship, the Chimeran Hammer, shot a concentrated beam of light, blowing up Xylene's ship. From the remains of the spaceship, 2 pods were sent away, each containing powers beyond comprehension. Ah man, this is going to be the worst vacation ever. In a quiet forest, a young boy complained grumpily, I might as well have gone to summer school. He was none other than Benjamin Kirby Ben Tennyson, the protagonist of the Ben 10 franchise, the hero loved by all, and the legendary childhood of everyone who was born in the best era of cartoons. As for the reason for his bad mood, all year long, he had been excited for the trip with his grandpa, Magister Maxwell Max Tennyson, yet his entire excitement had come crashing down like what was going to come crashing down on him when he had found out his cousin, Gwendolyn Gwen Tennyson, was coming with them. Goddamn. Even his full name gives big dick energy. But hearing something in the air, he looked up to see 2 shooting stars. Whoa, shooting stars. The problem was, they weren't shooting stars. Or technically were, since they shot themselves at him midair. Gasping, he turned to run away screaming, and managed to not get crushed by whatever came crashing down on him. Although the landing blew him away a bit, he was unharmed. Curious, he approached the small crater. Looks like a satellite or something. He looked at what had nearly killed him, but couldn't see what it was with the smoke covering it. Suddenly, the ground trembled, thanks to a certain someone, and the edge of the crater he was standing on collapsed, causing him to come sliding down the small crater with another scream. With the smoke cleared, he saw 2 metallic pods, which unfolded to reveal 3 surprising things. An alien watch in one pod, glowing a green color, and another alien watch in the other, this one glowing red. But what was the most surprising, was what came along with the second pod that contained the red watch. Ah boy. What the? Ben stared in shock. Of everything he had thought of seeing inside of the pods that literally came from space, a boy wasn't one of them. One looking like to be the same age as him too. And darn good looking type at that. A handsome face that had begun developing in all the right directions already, sharp eyebrows, a straight nose, and with a jawline that was beginning to form, he was easily the most good-looking guy around his age that Ben had ever seen. His looks would put him in danger when around older women. Even if he hadn't come crashing down from outer space, Ben still would have been shocked and amazed when seeing him. When the red light illuminated the inside of the pod, the brunette for guys, saw that it was actually attached to the boy. Carefully, slowly getting close, he tapped on his shoulder. Hey, get up. The noirette, black-haired guys, didn't show any signs of waking up, but the slow rhythm of his chest rising and falling showed that he was alive. Still worried though, Ben grabbed him and shook him. Hey, wake up. HMGH, what? Frowning, his eyes fluttered open, gentle crimson orbs. Where am I? Rubbing his eyes, he sat up with a groan, feeling like he had been asleep for years. Hey, who are you? Ben asked. Why were you in this space pod? Did you come from space? Ugh, slow down. He groaned, voice raspy as if he hadn't spoken for a long time. Still sleepy, he looked at Ben. Who am I? Who are you? He looked curiously before getting quiet and frowning. No, wait, who am I? He looked at Ben's green eyes. Do you know who I am? A/N. I would get anxious if I saw a reincarnated MC has lost his memories, so let me clarify something so you wouldn't get anxious. For a few paragraphs only, yes, he has actually lost his memories. But only for a bit. The moment Ben gets the Omnitrix, he's getting his memories back. You don't know? Wait, don't tell me you've lost your memories. He suddenly began checking his head. Did you hit your head when the pod landed and lost your memories or something? Oh boy, what am I supposed to do now? Geez, calm down. The boy pushed away the hands grabbing and checking his head. Pod? What are you talking about? Seriously, where am I? Who am I? Seeing that he was beginning to get anxious, Ben quickly tried to calm him down. Whoa, chill dude. I seriously don't know. Look, I was walking in the forest, then I saw 2 shooting stars in the sky. But they weren't shooting stars. They were pods that came flying towards me. When they opened, I saw that you were in one of them. But seriously, you don't remember anything? No, I don't. He frowned anxiously. Ben quickly tried to help. Well, why don't you try to focus? Maybe trying hard enough will at least make you remember something. Anything. Try remembering something. Like your name. My name. The noirette focused. My name. My name is Ali. Ugh. He grabbed his head in pain. Wo, you okay? Ben put a hand on his shoulder, and the boy smiled brightly. Alistair. Yeah, I remember, my name is Alistair. Oh, see. It wasn't that hard, was it? The brunette smiled back. Anything else that you remember? What about your last name? Alistair tried to focus again, but he couldn't remember anything. He shook his head in disappointment. Nothing else. Hey, it's okay. No need to get anxious. He tried to reassure him. I think it's just short-term memory loss, not just straight out losing all of your memories. You remembered your name, right? So maybe you'll remember everything else with time. Calmed down thanks to Ben, Alistair nodded with a smile. Yeah, maybe you're right. At least I hope so. Ben grabbed his arms, pulling him up to his feet. Come on, don't be so sad. Hey, I know, let's go and ask my grandpa. Maybe he'll know how to help you. Really? Yeah, my grandpa knows a lot. Maybe he'll figure something out. Well, okay then, I'll come with you. All right. Don't worry, I'm sure everybody will be a-okay. Asterisk smiling asterisk thanks, you're really nice. He, no problem, I'm just trying to help. Oh, I'm Ben, by the way. Ben Tenuzon. Nice to meet ya. Nice to meet you too, Ben. All right then, let's go back quickly. But before that. He got close to the other pod, feeling as if it was calling out to him. Just what are these? Watches. You have one too. What are watches doing in outer space? As he reached out to it, a sharp pain went through Alistair's head, making him gasp and groan as he held his head. In a matter of seconds, everything came back. His past life, his meeting with Crow the omniversal being, his wishes, and his new life as the parasitic multiverse, the majestic multiverse. Holding his head, his lips parted into a smirk. Yeah, now I remember. Looking at his left wrist, he was about to start dancing and jumping up and down. Who didn't have the dream of having an Omnitrix after watching Ben 10? Obviously, he whose entire childhood was Ben 10, would never miss out on having one. Nemetrix image. A/N. By the way, in all of my books, MC only wishes for what powers to have and how to start off. So basically, he wished to have the Nemetrix and how to show up in this world, but nothing after that. So if something outside of the plot happens, he doesn't know why until figuring it out himself. Just wanted to clarify that. Sorry for my bad habit, by the way. It's because I get annoyed at the story when I misunderstand something, so I didn't want you to experience it. Ah, get off me. Suddenly he heard Ben's shouts, get off. Get off. He turned to see Ben shaking his left hand violently to get off the alien watch that just latched onto him. In fact, he tried so hard he fell down, before getting up and grabbing Alistair. "Come on, let's get Grandpa to see how to remove these freaky watches." And he was dragged away by the boy. Ugh. As the branch he used to try and remove the watch broke, Ben dropped to his knees grumpily. "Why are you so freaked out?" Alistair crouched down next to him. Ben glared. "I'm obviously going to be worried if some alien watch suddenly latched onto my arm. What if it's some kind of a parasite or something?" "Actually, the parasite is right next to you." The Noirette tightened his lips. "Alright, then do you feel weird?" After thinking and checking himself, Ben shook his head. Well, no." Alistair looked at his Nemetrix. "Then let's see what these actually are instead of trying to get them off when they're stuck to us." "Well, fair enough." He looked at the Omnitrix, before they both messed around with the watches. Whoa. When they sprung out, they both grew shocked, while Alistair tried even harder to keep his excitement. Cool. When the silhouette of a figure appeared in the activated watch, even Ben got excited. Turning to Alistair, he saw that instead of a black figure inside the watch, a red holographic image of someone wearing a cloak had shown up. The Noirette didn't take even a second to recognize his favorite alien. "What do you think will happen if we press these?" Ben's worry from before was non-existent. He was smiling excitedly, and Alistair smirked back. "Why don't we find out?" Looking down at their watches, they both pressed them down carefully. Bright and intense green and red lights flashed, and before he could even register it, Alistair felt himself changed. He stood at a taller height, more muscular, and with a comfortable cloak covering him. Looking down at himself, 4 long black fingers, with white fur covering his forearms completely. It was a surreal experience. He felt like himself, but it felt like he was a completely different being at the same time. The sensations of having extra limbs, and the control he felt from his 4 giant wings and 2 antenna-like wing folds was phenomenal. And quite frankly addictive. But his moment of amazement was ruined by Ben screaming his lungs out suddenly in a different voice. "Ah, I'm on fire. I'm on fire." "Yes, great observation, Ben. Thanks for ruining the moment." Alistair huffed to himself, watching his new friend running around and panicking. Chapter 3, CH2, First Transformations, E1. "Ah, I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Ah." Ben ran around panicking as a pyronite, before realizing he wasn't actually in any pain. "Hey, I'm on fire and I'm okay. Check it out. I'm totally hot." He laughed at his own joke. But it wasn't so amusing to others. "Even without my memories, I know that was a bad joke." "Whoa, Alistair, is that you?" He jumped when he looked at the Noirette, now in the form of a Necrophrygian. Winter nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, it's me." His ghost-like voice amazed Ben. "This is really awesome, isn't it?" "Yeah, freaking cool." Before he got an idea, and smirked at a tree. "Oh yeah." He posed like a gunslinger. "Aha. Here goes." As he pointed at a tree branch, a fireball was shot from his finger, blowing up the branch. "That's what I'm talking about." Whoa. Alistair was acting like his current age. He couldn't help it. He was watching his childhood show right in front of him. And even if not for that, what he saw really was amazing. But as Ben was playing around, he heard an unfamiliar voice. "Unidentified alien detected," proceeding to scanning. Surprised, he looked down to the Nemetrix glowing with each word. His eyes went wide. "Wait. What now?" But nobody answered him. Instead, the voice continued after a moment. "New alien and predator DNA unlocked. Pyronite and Crabdozer." Zafutk. His red eyes widened, assumption after assumption flashing in his mind. Ben, lost in his curiosity, clasped his hands together, before a larger fireball started to form, liking it. And he threw it right away at a tree. It shattered it easily, before breaking through 2 more trees. Oh crap. Seeing that the fire was about to spread, Alistair shot a breath of ice, quickly turning off the fire and turning wherever was lit up, just in case it would reignite again. "Whoa, cool. So I can control fire and you can control ice." Ben's mouth flew wide open, but Alistair, although amazed as well, wasn't so excited. "Geez, what did you expect to happen?" He smacked the back of Heatblast's head. "You were just about to make a major forest fire." He couldn't help but glance at his hand in amazement. Despite smacking a head lit up in flames, he hadn't suffered any burns or such. "Ooh yeah, hey, sorry about." Ben laughed awkwardly. "But seriously, this is freaking awesome. Scratch what I said before, this is going to be the best summer ever. Like, did you see what I just did?" "Yeah, nearly start a major forest fire." Alistair deadpanned. Ben coughed into his first. Why yeah, let's just forget about that. It has already been solved. But how do we turn back now?" "Ah. Oh no, don't tell me we're going to be stuck like this." "No, I'm sure it'll be alright." "But we're not sure, dude. Oh no, I'm gonna be so busted for this. How am I supposed to explain to my mom and dad about why I'm constantly on fire? Okay, calm down, bro. You're getting too anxious. Look, how about we go and see your grandpa? See if he can help. Asterisk unamused asterisk how is my grandpa going to know or help with anything about alien watches? Asterisk unamused asterisk I don't know, how is he going to help with my memory loss? Okay, fair enough. Then let's go already, before we mess up again. Because I really don't want to get nagged at for burning a forest. Alright, lead the way. Sure, follow me. Wait, which way were they again? Boy, if you tell me we're both lost. No, don't worry. Right, it's that way. Come on, let's go. Geez, Ben's really been gone for a while now. Camping beside an RV, an old man in a button-up red Hawaiian shirt with a floral design, looked at the forest in worry. I'm really starting to worry now. Yes, thanks for the clarification. Geez, there's no need to worry so much, Grandpa. Sitting with her laptop on her lap, his granddaughter spoke up. Seriously, what would happen in a place like this? Definitely not anything to do with aliens. Yup, definitely not. Grandpa. Dweeb. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice called out to them. Turning to look, Gwen immediately screamed after getting stunned. Gwen. What happened? What in blazes? Seeing the fireman and the Mothman, Max was stunned too. Gwen had good survival skills, because she immediately got a fire extinguisher they had with them. I'm warning you, whatever you are. One more step closer, and I'm putting you out like a candle. But Ben glared. Yeah, don't even think about it, freak. Surprisingly, Gwen immediately recognized him from the tone of the insult. Ben? Is that you? Shocking Max even more. Ben. Ben waved. Yeah, it's me, you too. What happened to you? Max said as they both ran to him, but kept a distance with him being too hot. Well, when I was walking, these meteors fell from the sky and almost smushed me. Said that they weren't meteors or a satellite, but 2 watches and a guy my age. Ben started explaining hurriedly. After I woke the guy up, it's him, by the way. He pointed at Alistair, who waved. Hi. Slightly freaking out the 2 humans, but Ben continued. He couldn't remember anything except his name, so I thought of bringing him here to see if Grandpa could help. So remember the watches? One of them was already on him, so I thought I might as well check out the other one. But when I tried to grab it, it jumped up onto my wrist. And when we tried to get them off, we suddenly turned out like this and I was on fire, only it didn't hurt at all despite me literally having molten lava as skin and fire as hair. Peak explanation, dude. I'm sure they understood everything. Alistair deadpanned, pointing at the stunned duo. Max waved his hand. Wait, what? So 2 meteors suddenly landed where you were, and when you checked them, there were 2 alien watches and a boy in them. And that's him. Gwen pointed at Alistair, unsure. I don't think that's exactly a boy, Ben. Ben huffed. That's the point, dweeb. He had the same watch, just somewhat different. And when we tried to get them off, we both turned out like this. Geez, did you even listen to a word I said, or did you just fail to understand it? Hey, it's not my fault your pea-sized brain is so remarkable at explaining stuff, genius. Of course I am, you're just stupid. Oh yeah? Wanna look at our report cards? Oh, of course you would bring up school, you nerd. Alright, calm down you two. Max interrupted. Look, this isn't the time to argue. Let's sit down, and let Ben explain everything calmly, alright? The cousins glared before scoffing. Fine, Grandpa. And you say that this watch just jumped up and clamped onto your wrist? Sitting around a campfire, Max asked. Gwen threw a campfire marshmallow at Ben, which was instantly cooked in his hand. Hey, this time, it wasn't my fault. I swear. Max, I believe you, Ben. And you say that this boy was inside of the pod too? Alistair, yes, hello sir. Sorry for the trouble. Max, don't worry son. It's just that this is quite a surprising turn of events. Gwen, tell me about it. So do you think he's an alien or something? Ben, huh? But he looks exactly human. Gwen, but he came from outer space. Ben, well, fair point. No wait, he doesn't just look human. He was wearing Earth's clothes, can speak English, and has a human name. I don't think an alien would be named Alistair. Max, so your name's Alistair, huh? Alistair, yes sir, it's nice to meet you. Gwen, wow, he's really polite. You should learn a thing or two from him, Ben. Ben glaring, right back at you dweeb. Max, stop it already you two. Smiling and Alistair, no need to be so polite. Just call me Grandpa Max if you want. Alistair, well, alright Grandpa Max. Max, then, do you remember anything other than your name, son? Do you remember anything about your family or where you're from? My family. Even as an alien, the drop of his features was obvious. No, I don't remember anything. A/N, clarification, he does. Don't confuse his fifth wish, that was for others to forget about him, not him forgetting about others. Max, ooh. Gwen, nice going, Grandpa. Max, ahem, sorry about that, Alistair. Smiling, but hey, no need to worry. I'm sure you'll recover your memories with time, so no need to be anxious. And until then, you can stick together with us. Alistair, Ben, Gwen, he can? Max, smiling, of course. I can't just leave a kid to himself when he doesn't have his memories or anywhere to go, can I? Alistair, smiling, thanks a lot, Grandpa Max. Seriously, there's a reason why Grandpa Max and Uncle Iroh are known as the sweetest guys. He's willing to take care of an unrelated kid who needs help without even thinking much about it. Max, smiling, it's all right. It's no big deal. Alistair, of course it is, you're basically saving my life here. After all, I don't have anywhere to stay. I might become bear food if I just wandered around. Max, if you sei so. You're welcome. Gwen, well, I guess the gang increases. I just hope you don't become a doofus like a certain someone here. Ben, yeah, she's right, you shouldn't become like Gwen. Gwen, glaring, you know I'm talking about you. Ben, smirking, sorry dweeb, I'm made out of fire, not out of mirrors. Gwen, why you dash? Max, that's enough. You shouldn't make a bad impression in front of our new group member. Ben blindslice Gwen, HMPH. Gwen, by the way, speaking of staying, do you think they're gonna stay as monsters forever? Max, they're not monsters. They're aliens. Everyone stared at him. Max, awkward, I mean, look at them. What else could they be? You said it yourself, the watches came from space, right? Ben, yeah, I don't want to be fire guy forever. How am I supposed to play Little League this fall if I charcoal the ball every time I catch a popfly? Alistair, hey, I don't think this is so bad. I can freeze things like this. Gwen, smirking, so Ben controls fire and you control ice? What a duo you two are. Max, don't worry you two. We'll figure this thing out. Just as he stopped talking, a beeping sound started coming from the watches. And suddenly, with a final beep, two blinding red lights flashed, causing Max and Gwen to cover their eyes. When the lights subsided, they looked to see Ben and Alistair back as humans. I'm me again. Ben cheered while Alistair sighed, man, guess the fun's over. Gwen agreed, too bad. I liked you better when you were a briquette. And wow, Ben wasn't lying. She nodded looking at Alistair, impressed. A/N, LOL, I can imagine Ben going, I saw this guy fall from the sky, and damn he was handsome. Respectfully. I still can't get this thing off. Ben tried to remove the watch, but to no avail, huff. What about you, Alistair? Any luck? The Noirette tried to get it off, but failed, nope, still stuck like glue. Max got up, a flashlight in hand, better not fool with them anymore until we know exactly what we're dealing with. I'll go check out that crash site. You guys stay here until I get back. And so, he left. Alistair thought that it would be awkward among them, but surprisingly, that wasn't the case. Despite how they acted, just like how he expected, the cousins talked a lot to each other. After all, it wasn't every day that one of them suddenly turned into an alien. And luckily for him, who hated feeling awkward, they didn't ignore him and his experience as an alien either. Chapter 4, CH3, yet another new alien and predator, E1. So how did it feel? Gwen asked, roasting a marshmallow, like, did it feel weird to suddenly become an alien? Alistair shrugged, not when it happened, no. But it did feel weird being in that state. Ben, yeah, it was like being yourself, but with a different body. Gwen, which is exactly what had happened. So you mean you just changed out of nowhere? Without feeling anything? Ben, no, it just happened instantly. Alistair, same for me. 1 second, I was the normal me, the next second, I was this 2 meters tall Mothman with wings as a cape. Ben/Gwen, wait, that was your wings? Gwen, I did think it was weird that you would have a cape like that if you had just woken up from a spacepod. So that's why. Ben, yeah, I was so confused too. I was like, did he change into an alien and get a cape? How does that work? I didn't think it would be your wings. So your alien can fly, huh? Gwen, now you've got me wondering about what that alien looks like with its wings open. Alistair, I guess that's normal since you don't see an alien out of nowhere. Gwen, so what about after transforming? Did it feel different compared to, being a human? Well. Sitting around the campfire, they talked about their personal experience in curiosity and excitement, while Gwen listened in interest. It was like 3 children just chatting around and having fun like normal people. Except that the subject wasn't normal at all. And then Ben was about to tell the awesome tale of how he was nearly about to burn down the entire forest, before both watches were recharged with a loud beep. Ben's Omnitrix turned from red to green, while Alistair's Nemetrix turned from yellow to red. Ben, Whoa, so does this mean we can use them again? Gwen, I guess? Maybe it was the sound of them recharging completely or something. I think you're right, Alistair said, pushing the button that was sticking out like a sore thumb, causing the Nemetrix to be activated and for the hologram of Winter, his necrophrygian DNA sample, to show up. Ben, whoa, how did you do that? Alistair, I just pressed the button here. Ben, so that's how you do it. Let me try if mine works that way too. Pressing the button on his watch, it came to life. Ben, cool. Gwen, confused, so it's that easy to use those things? Ben, how did you think we'd need to use them when they're literally watches? Gwen, rolling eyes, oh, excuse me for expecting an alien device that can completely change your species to be more complicated to use than just pressing a button. How foolish of me. Ben, smirking, at least you know. While they bickered back and forth, Alistair was more focused on his Nemetrix. He couldn't help it, he was so excited and curious about it that it was like his brain ignored the world around him. Let's see what I've got. He looked through his aliens. Oh, this is a pretty good selection. I've got Echo, Humongosaur, Jetray, heck, I've even got Wrath. My favorite alien along with Big Chill. Gasp, I even have feedback. Holy shit, even Pesky Dust. Each time he turned the watch, his excitement grew stronger. Especially when he saw Pesky Dust, his Nemuina transformation. He liked that certain alien quite a bit. After all, it was the perfect example of don't judge a book by its cover. Despite being physically weak, and looking like it would be in the same league as Omnitrix's weakest aliens like Walkertrout and the worst, it was the second most busted alien in Ben's arsenal, with only Alien X surpassing it. After all, the special dust that it can release is strong enough to put any living being into sleep, even celestial sapiens and chronosapiens, an omnipotent alien and one that can manipulate time. That alone made it more interesting than Alien X himself to Alistair. It was fascinating how one of the weakest aliens of the Omnitrix physically was the strongest in terms of abilities. I guess this is my boss alien. He snickered to himself, turning the watch again. He had already seen 10 aliens, so he had expected to see his first alien again. But surprisingly, he saw another alien. One that he shouldn't have had, considering he had wished to have aliens that Ben didn't have in the first season. Heat Blast, a Pyronite. It left him confused, but he realized the answer, that notification from before. His eyes widened. Is this Nemetrix able to copy the DNAs of other aliens? HW grew bewildered and amazed. Holy shit, this is amazing. Just the fact that I could transform was already awesome, but being able to get new aliens is even better. And once again, the desire to jump up and down and dance came back. He held it back though. He was already a weirdo to the others, he didn't want to seem even weirder. Whoa, wait, isn't that the guy Ben turned into? Gwen called out, bringing him out of his own world. Looking up, he saw them staring at the hologram projected from his Nemetrix. Ben, huh? Now that you mention it, it does look like him. Gwen, ooh, so does that mean you both have the same aliens? The watches look almost exactly the same, so that may be the case. Ben, shaking his head, no, doesn't look like it. I don't see the alien Alistair had turned into in my watch. Alistair, I don't think mine had your alien originally either, Ben. Gwen, then why does it show up in your watch? Alistair, when we transformed, this thing said something about copying an alien DNA and its predator. I don't think Ben heard it since he was panicking. Would you like to switch from alien mode to predator mode? Suddenly, a beautiful mature female voice spoke from the Nemetrix in a British accent, freaking the others out. Whoa, it can speak. But no more words were said again. They looked at each other in bewilderment, before Alistair spoke to the watch. Yes, switch to predator mode. Please. Better be polite with the most powerful device in the universe. Switching to predator mode. The voice, which would be hella suitable for a relaxing ASMR, spoke again, and the symbol of Nemetrix began to change. From a vertical red hourglass symbol, it switched into a horizontal open mouth with sharp fangs. Upon its change, it was activated to show its collection of transformations. But this time, the holograms were different. They were predators. And Alistair nearly geeked out. Whoa. Both cousins exclaimed in amazement as the Noiret looked through what he had. Raising an eyebrow, Ben raised his Omnitrix. Hey watch, switch to predator mode. Catching Gwen and Alistair's attention. But only silence filled the area, along with the crackling of the fire. Hey watch, switch to predator mode. He tried again, but to no avail. He went through his aliens, but nothing had changed, and neither had anything been added. I guess yours doesn't have that function. Gwen spoke up. Alistair smirking, or maybe yours is in silent mode. Gwen smirking, good luck fixing that, Ben. Ben rolling his eyes, as if I care. Gwen smirking, somebody's Geely. Ben glaring, am not. Gwen, you so are. Ben, I said I'm not. Why would I be jealous? So mine doesn't have that. Whatever it is. I don't care. Gwen, yeah, whatever you say, Tennyson. Ben, rolling his eyes, whatever. Alistair, smiling, it's all right, Ben. After all, I don't think the more, the merrier is exactly a good thing here. Ben, confused, what do you mean? Isn't it better to have more guys to turn into? Gwen, so you are admitting that you're jealous? Ben, glaring, shut up already. Alistair, serious, technically that would be the case. But we don't know what these things are, what they can do, and what is the price for using them. Ben/Gwen, the price. Alistair, of course. Never heard of nothing is free? I really don't think a device that can change our species, our literal DNA, is something that comes without a price. So, no, I don't think having a wide selection is technically a good thing until we know enough about these things. Ben, you've got a point. Gwen, worried, you know, now that you put it that way, I just noticed how dangerous these things can be. After all, they literally change you into something completely different. What if you won't be able to turn back like the last time one day? Ben, that's true. Alistair, maybe that's why there's like a time limit for them. Ben, a time limit? Alistair, yeah, I'm talking about what happened just now. We didn't do anything to them, but they were automatically deactivated after we had been transformed for a while. Gwen, and what does that have to do with what I just said? Alistair, think about it like this, transformation is nuclear radiation is something, and long exposure to it is what can cause harm. However, if the exposure is short, like a few minutes, nothing will happen. Or at least nothing serious. Now put that same principle here. Gwen, oh, I get it. Staying in a transformed state would be harmful for you, which is why there's a time limit, so it would forcibly pull you out of the transformed state so you wouldn't be harmed. Ben, I get it. I guess. Kinda. Gwen, rolling her eyes, just think of it as if you would get severely sunburned if you stayed under the sun for too long, doofus. Ben, ooh, I get it now. Gwen, murmuring, thank God for that. Ben, wow, Alistair, you're pretty smart. You weren't a bookworm before losing your memories, were you? Gwen, glaring, oh wow, doofus, how about being a bit considerate about sensitive subjects? Ben, what, I'm just asking. Alistair, chuckling, it's all right, Gwen, I'm not delicate like that. Or at least I'd rather not. Ben, so does that mean these things are safe to use? Alistair, I guess. Gwen, glaring, at least if you are going to be careful with it, Ben. Don't treat that thing the same way you treat your socks, because I've seen how pitiful of a state they are in. Ben, all right, geez, stop complaining so much. Gwen, and besides, who said you can use that? Grandpa told us to stay put and wait for him, not to mess with those things. Ben, yeah? So, what's your point? Gwen, did your parents drop you when you were a baby?
Ben, come onorevole.
You can't tell me you aren't a little bit curious what else this thing can do. Gwen, not in the least. Ben, excuse me, who was asking so many things about these watches just now? Gwen, that's different. That's just asking and discussing. This is experimentation. Totally different. Ben, you sure you're related to me? Look, if I can figure this thing out, maybe I can help people. I mean really help them, not just, make things worse. Then they say he doesn't have a heart of gold. The boy gets the strongest device in the universe, and while anybody else would think of world domination, arguably the most reasonable thought to have, his first thought is how he can help people with it. Even if he acts like a jerk sometimes, it still doesn't change the fact that he has a heart of gold. But now that we've figured out how we did it, should we try it again? Just once. Ben smiled excitedly as he turned his watch. Gwen looked reluctant, I wouldn't. And Ben deadpanned, no duh, you wouldn't. Before doing the iconic smacking of the Omnitrix. With an intense flash of green light, he changed, and an orange beast stood where he was standing, grar. As he stood there, the Nemetrix flashed red lightly, unidentified alien DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. Catching the other's attention. And a moment later, the female voice spoke up again, new alien and predator DNA unlocked, Vulpamancer and Vulpamander. Image. Vulpamander description, their scales are extremely durable, making it impossible for Vulpamancers to break through them and harm them. They're also able to make it so their smell completely blends with the environment, making it so Vulpamancers can't detect them. They don't have eyes, but observe the world through smell, sound and touch. Their hearing and sense of smell are so powerful that they can hear heartbeat from miles away and smell anything in a few miles around them. Their powerful jaws, sharp fangs and nails work easily in ripping apart Vulpamancers, while their thorn-like scales makes it so any attacker is harmed instead. Chapter 5, CH4, Going Predator, E1. Music to my ears. Alistair grinned widely, it said it again. Catching the cousin's attention. As he looked through his predator, He indeed saw another new DNA in his collection that had been added right after his Tyrannosaurus DNA. Changed from Crabdozer, A/N, I noticed that the species of the Nemetrix predators don't have actual names, and only the name that has been given to the predators was used for their species. So I may or may not give them new news. Seriously? Now you've got this thing too. Gwen pointed at Wildmutt, conflicted. Now I really think the more, the merrier isn't a good thing here. Like EW, this thing's even uglier than you are normally, Ben. Are you sure you even want this thing? Wow, put a flea collar on this mutt. And no eyes. As Ben groaned in annoyance, Gwen waved her hand in front of his face. What good is this one? It can't see. Looking at the stick in her holding the marshmallow, she suddenly got an idea. Smirking mischievously, she went behind the beast as Alistair watched in amusement. She spat in her hands, before swinging the stick, getting ready to smack Wildmutt's butt with it. But unbeknownst to her, Wildmutt was far from being blind. His gill-like nostrils located on each side of his neck sensed the movements around him, and just as Gwen swung her stick with all her strength, he jumped onto the rust bucket, causing Gwen to stumble and fall. As Ben grinned smugly, Alistair couldn't hold back his laughter. The redhead glared at the laughing Moirette as she got up, turning to the beast. Okay, so maybe it's not a total loser. Wiping the tear in his eye, Alistair walked to stand beside her. No, I don't think he is. I guess if he doesn't have eyes, then he must be relying on his other senses to observe the world. And from how those spots on his neck move, I think those are his eyes. And if that's the case, then he, in fact, technically can see even better than you since his vision is 360, letting him see everything around him, not just the front. Huh, is that so? Gwen got genuinely surprised. If that was the case, then Alistair was right, it certainly wasn't a loser alien at all. But that means an even more serious weakness. The Noirette continued, since he can only rely on a single sense or two, since he probably can hear too, he'll be screwed if that sense is restrained if there are too many smells to obstruct his sense of smell. So watch out, Ben, alright? Ben let out something of a bark, as if in agreement, while Gwen looked at Alistair, impressed. Wow, Alistair, you're really observant, huh? You figured out his strength and weakness so quickly. He shrugged, smiling. I guess that's a good thing then, no? Letting out a quiet shriek, Ben jumped down. Not without flipping in the air. Standing in front of them, the two were affected by the disgusting smell coming from Wildmutt's mouth. Even Alistair wasn't an exception. He covered his nose and looked away, while Gwen hurriedly waved in front of her to disperse the smell. EW. 2 words, breath mints. Ben turned around, confusing her, before he threw dirt on her with his back legs. Alistair was quick to move away, not wanting his black pants and shirt to get dirty. Right after, Wildmutt started jumping away, while Gwen tried to stop him. Ben, get back here. Ben. I'm gonna tell Grandpa that you turned into some freaky animal monster thing and went swinging around the forest when he told you not to. But was Ben seriously one to listen? He was long gone before Gwen even finished her sentence. She groaned in defeat. This is a majorly weird day. Giggling to himself like an excited child, Alistair activated his own watch. Can't leave him alone now, can we? Don't worry, I'll go after him. And he pushed down the Nemetrix. Gently. He didn't slap it. Just gently pushed it down, before an intense red light illuminated the place, causing Gwen to cover her eyes. As the red light vanished, so did Alistair. And in his place, stood another beast. This one with no fur, covered in sharp black and red scales from head to tail. While the half of his body was covered in deadly scales, definitely not suitable for petting, the lower half, although covered in scales, didn't have any that protruded to be used as weapons. Behind him swung a tail as well, with a sharp tip, definitely usable as a weapon. Just like Wildmutt, it didn't possess any eyes, but it most definitely had senses even more potent than mere eyesight. It also had a sharp curved, hook-like horn on its muzzle. Being stabbed with that definitely wouldn't be fun, considering how it would be stuck and the beast would drag the prey away with its remarkable strength. Alistair felt amazing. Powerful. Indestructible. The scales on his body made him feel invulnerable to any damage, while the strength he felt in every fabric of his body sent his mind into overdrive. He couldn't see with his eyes, but it was like he could observe the world around him better than ever. He had noticed something now that he had transformed again. The Nemetrix, just like the recalibrated Omnitrix in Alien Force, would automatically send all the abilities of the alien he transformed into his brain. It was how he knew instantly how to breath ice as winter, and how he knew immediately that this alien would use mainly sound, and scent and touch secondly, as the ways to observe the world. Even without that, he could have still guessed it, with how heightened his hearing had instantly become. He could hear everything. The gentle breeze of the wind, the swaying of the grass, every crackle of even the tiniest wood that was burning, the hurried beating of Gwen's heart, showing she was a bit intimidated and scared, and even the weird noise of something flying towards where he could hear Wildmutt's movements and heartbeat from. Alistair, is that you? Gwen asked, slightly scared. Ben's beast didn't look that intimidating, considering she knew it was her cousin, which made him a lot less scary. And honestly, it seriously didn't look that intimidating to her anyway, being only big and having just a mouth. But the beast in front of her sent a shiver down her spine. Unlike her cousin, who she trusted, she didn't know what he would suddenly do. Her eyes subconsciously moved to the sharp fangs and claws, making her gulp nervously. The very instinctual mannerism of movement of his made her mind subconsciously learn, this beast was no puppy or a dog. It was a hunter. A predator. It wasn't even intentional on Alistair's part. When he transformed, although his mind stayed the same, it was like his instincts changed. Not completely, but enough to affect his body somewhat. He could feel it too. He wasn't just standing. His body subconsciously moved in a manner like it was ready to hunt, to shred a prey to pieces every second. He smiled. A hungry, evil one. He wanted to hunt. He wanted to chase something. He wanted to watch as his prey tried everything to escape him. He wanted to feel the high of the hunt. I guess even if I don't go mad thanks to the Nemetrix, I will still change somewhat, huh? He mused, not at all bothered or annoyed. In fact, he liked it. There was bound to be hesitations and mistakes if he had the body of a predator, but the mind and instincts of a human. He needed everything of his predators to truly be able to hunt. And the urge to hunt was really, really strong. He heard Gwen gulp, while her heart's beating accelerated. Oops, gotta be considerate, Alistair, don't be an asshole when they don't even know you. He calmed down, but did like his hearing a lot. It was really interesting to experience the world in another way. But he didn't want to be a jerk to those who've been kind to him. How? He said gently, patting Gwen on the back with his tail, careful to not hurt her, and smiled friendlier. At least as friendly as his smile could become. But thankfully, Gwen got the memo. At least if her heartbeat calming down indicated anything. Oh, you're good? She asked, and when he nodded, she sighed in relief. Thank God, I thought you went feral for a second there after becoming a monster. If he had eyes, he would have rolled them. Hearing the whirring sound of something flying in the air and rapidly approaching Ben, his hungry smile returned. The chance to hunt came just when he craved the high. Nodding at Gwen, he kicked the ground and ran at an alarming speed. But thanks to the Nemetrix making him understand everything about his predator's abilities, he had no problem maneuvering between the trees and jumping from one to another. Alistair heard Gwen's voice from afar rather clearly, like she was right next to him. Wait, Alistair, not you too. Ah geez, now I have to babysit not just Ben, but someone else too. Just perfect. He snickered at her complaining, amused at how she chased after them despite the complaints. Whatever that had come for Ben came pretty quick. He already knew what they were though, and why they were here. As he ran, his focus was on Ben. He could hear everything so vividly, making him feel like he was watching everything just from beside Ben. He did complain in his heart about Ben not taking care of the robot attacking him quickly though. Even if inexperienced, he should have still been able to take care of a single robot like that in a matter of seconds. He had to work on Ben's habit of fooling around with his enemies and not taking care of them swiftly. The loud explosion, final beep of the Omnitrix, and the crackling of the fire that followed let him know that he took care of the robot. He didn't hear anything about him being hurt either. Guess he could hear those too. Just Ben's heart beating rapidly from the adrenaline. Yes. He heard the boy exclaim, before another robot showed up, oh not good. Fortunately for him, he arrived just in time with a roar. Leaping into the air, his claws were fully unleashed as he stabbed them into the robot, crashing it into the ground and crushing it right there. And despite the fire that it was lit on, his scales didn't let him feel anything. And that's how you hunt. Swiftly, without giving it a chance to fight back. He smirked, growling sadistically. Ah, Alistair? Ben asked nervously, taking a step back. Alistair pulled his hand and claws out of the robot, before giving an upward nod to Ben. Gaw. Oh phew, it is you. The brunette sighed in relief, before Alistair's Nemetrix began to beep and flash yellow. With a final and loud beep, he was transformed back into his human form. Now that's what I call action. He folded his arms smugly. Are you two okay? Gwen came running. Oh phew, I thought you'd both be dead. She put down the shovel she was planning to use in case of emergency, burying their corpses not being one of them. Don't worry, it will take a lot more than that to kill me. Ben smirked, and Gwen rolled her eyes. You should be glad Alistair came quick. Otherwise, you'd be Swiss cheese with all the lasers those things were shooting. Come on, we should go back. Nodding, they followed her back to the rust bucket. All while Alistair couldn't stop grinning at what had just happened, and what would be happening from now on. The thrill of the hunt was addictive, and he knew he was going to get addicted to it hard. Chapter 6, CH5, Flightmare, E1. I was worried that you might get popular with that thing on your wrist. Max scolded his grandson, while Alistair sat on the back far seats, pillow on his lap he rested his elbows on. That's why I asked you not to fool around with it until we know what the heck it is. After all, although Max did promise to take care of him, he couldn't just scold a random kid he didn't even know much about. That wasn't the case for Ben though. And Gwen seemed to really enjoy that fact.
Sorry, Grandpa.
Ben apologized, but at least we figured out how to make these work. All you do is press this button. Then when this ring pops up, just twist it until you see the guy you want to be. Slam it down, and bammo. You're one of 10 super cool alien dudes. Well, apparently not just 10 for Alistair though. He seems to be able to get more or something. Alistair, I really think you shouldn't slam it down though. You know, with how advanced these things are and all. Ben, but that's the fun part. Alistair, then maybe you should cut down on the fun so you wouldn't break it. Ben, smirking, I'll think about it. Alistair, unimpressed, you definitely won't think about it. Ben, snickering, are you telepathic now or something? Gwen, smirking, or maybe he just uses his brain. Which I don't think you do often. Also, what about staying a super cool alien dude and not transforming back into plain old pizza face? Ben, I kind of haven't figured that part out yet. Max, thoughtful, with devices as powerful as those watches clamped on you, my guess is we'd better help you two learn. Fast. Ben, excited, all right. Alistair, excited, who says old people can't be fun? Max, come on, Alistair. I'm not that old. Mighty. The radio interrupted the excitement. Somebody help us. We are under attack by some sort of, I know you're not gonna believe me, but robot. Sounds just like those things that attacked me, Alistair. Ben said, shocked, must be looking for the watches. Those people are in trouble because of us. I think we can help them. He got up, and the strength Alistair mustered to not cringe was phenomenal at his 1,000-mile stare.
Gwen, deadpanning, you?
What are you gonna do about it, Tennyson? You're both just kids. Kids who just blew up some robots just a few minutes ago. So maybe taking care of this one won't be impossible either. Alistair said from behind. Putting aside the pillow, he got up with a smirk, and besides, not only have I taken quite a liking to this thing, it's also the only clue I have about my past and as to who I am. So if it wants the watch, it has to take it by force. Ben and Alistair shared a smirk, as if sharing the same idea too. They ran towards the location of the robot, and when they were close enough, the duo were ready to transform. Ben looked at his grandpa for permission, and when he received a nod, he activated the Omnitrix. Yeah. Smiling, he began to turn the watch, eeny meeny miny. Here goes. And slammed down the Omnitrix again, much to Alistair's annoyance. Intense green light came and went, and Ben stood as a hulking man made out of green/blue crystals, a Petrosapien. Gwen looked curiously, so what can this guy do? Ben clenched his fist, smirking, I don't know, but I bet it's gonna be cool. And Alistair's Nemetrix activated once again, unidentified DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. New alien and predator DNA unlocked, Petrosapien, Crystalsapien and Critisapien. A/N, Crystal plus Mantis. Critisapien description, these predators have evolved to be extremely durable, even more so than Petrosapiens, and have raptorial legs powerful and sharp enough to cut Petrosapiens to pieces in a single strike. And just like their prey, these creatures can regenerate their broken parts if needed to, can shoot their own crystals, and can generate even more raptorial legs for combat. Krytis image. Wait, does that mean you can also turn into the aliens that hunt mine? Ben, as Diamond Head, gaped at Alistair. Gwen spoke sarcastically, yes genius, that's what predator means. Before smirking, so you better be careful to not fight with Alistair, alright? After all, if he has the natural predator of your aliens, that means everything you can throw at him is basically useless. Oh whatever. Diamond Head rolled his eyes, turning to Alistair, aren't you going to transform too? The Noirette nodded seriously, was waiting for you to turn so I could make a quick strategy based on what you became or something. So any plans? He raised an eyebrow. Alistair finally chose a predator and nodded, yeah you take the ground, I'll take care of the sky. Deal. Diamond Head nodded with a grin, leave it to me. But do you have any flying ones? Alistair smirked, if this thing's wings aren't just for decoration, then yes. Pushing down the Nemetrix, gently, his bright red light came and went too. When they looked again, a giant black alien with 4 blue wings was in his place, standing at a massive size that made Diamond Head look like an ant, who watched in amazement, damn dude you're huge. Aerophibian engines description, they have the same ancestors as the Aerophibians, but evolved differently due to different environments. These creatures are extremely massive, and can be as big as max-size Vaxosaurians, Humongosaur. Not only are they extremely fast on top of being gigantic and incredibly powerful, they can also shoot energy to make themselves fast enough to catch Aerophibians, who can enter hyperspace and fly faster than light, mid-flight. They can also use this energy as an attacking method. But mainly, they use it for an energy boost while flying since their massive size and strength is enough to prey on most things already. They also possess camouflage to some extent thanks to their dark scales, which can blend in with other colors somewhat. If someone isn't actively searching for them, they could actually miss them. Flightmare image. A/N. Changed from pterodactyl to flightmare. That wasn't cool, and honestly, I think this suits it a lot more. Like, imagine seeing that thing in the sky. Max-size Humongosaur is half the size of way big, and this guy is as big as that. And it's even faster than Jetray? Damn, amphibians really drew the short end of the stick when it came to having predators, huh? And last of all, this guy is my favorite predator now. I was planning to have Humongosaur as the boss alien, but that's until I realized that's an amphibian running away from this guy, not him shooting flames. He's massive, fast as fuck boy, and can shoot laser beams. What more do you want for a boss alien? Holy. Max's eyes went wide, as did Gwen's mouth. What unlucky creature has that as its predator? Evolution had a problem with it, huh? Alistair wasn't much better. He expected something fast, not something gigantic. But from the info he got from the Nemetrix, this guy was massive and fast. And to add insult to the injury, it could camouflage. Just freaking disrespectful. Evolution had real beef with amphibians. You thought getting chased by dinosaurs in Jurassic Park was bad? Imagine the horror-poor amphibians experience having these guys on their tails. Aha, yup, I'm calling this guy Flightmare. Because I know I would get traumatized if I saw this in the fucking sky. From that high up, he was basically taller than all the trees, and could easily see the robot terrorizing the poor campers. This guy really has camouflage, huh? Or did that robot go blind? He looked down, speechless at how tiny the others were. Hero time? Ben asked. Alistair nodded. As the tiny trio ran towards the robot, Flightmare spread his humongous wings, and flapped. And boy, did a storm nearly start with just that. Shit, gotta be careful to not blow away everything. Trying to be gentler, he took to the sky. Thankfully for the environment, he didn't seem to need to constantly flap his wings to stay afloat. Just like Jetray, instead of flying, he kind of levitated in the air. I guess flapping my wings will increase my speed, but I don't need to constantly do it to stay in the air.
Jesus, Dude, this alien is massive.
Were Kyber and Dr. Psychoboss just unable to get these guys' DNA or something to add it to the Nemetrix in Omniverse? Cause honestly, I can't list that many aliens Ben has that could deal with this mofo. I just can't get over how disrespectful this predator is. Finally noticing him, the robot turned to look, and only wasted a second to locate the Nemetrix symbol around his neck before raising its arm and shooting a laser. It probably wouldn't even do anything, but Alistair wasn't one to be careful. Moving swiftly, he dodged the laser, before flying towards the robot. It fired again multiple times, but Flightmare dodged them all easily, getting closer and closer. However, the robot's laser missed completely, and the beast noticed that his partner had successfully gotten rid of one of the robot's legs. I guess even robots can forget things. Did you forget there are 2 watches around? Diamond Head smirked as the robot lost balance, beginning to fall. Seeing the fast-approaching Flightmare, he backed off to give his partner space, watching in amazement as he crashed into the giant robot that looked small compared to it with his talons. The force of which he slammed the robot to the ground was already enough to nearly crush the whole thing, and it had already begun to short-circuit. But he took to the sky with the robot in one of his legs. And once high enough, he let go of it, letting it still fly higher a bit, before he spun and slammed it with his tail, causing it to go shooting down. Arrow. Diamond Head looked up, before he quickly started running away. He didn't get far though, thanks to the speed at which the robot came flying down. As it hit the ground a few meters away from him, it exploded instantly, causing him to fly away. Ah! He shouted, flapping his arms midair. Fortunately for him, a Petrosapien's durability was nothing to scoff at. Although the explosion was dangerous, he was harmed at all. He just got up from the small building he crashed into, obliterating it with his face, and shook his head to get off everything that was on him. Really, Alistair? He looked up at the levitating horror, who smiled apologetically and shrugged. Alright, gotta get a hang of these things as fast as possible. Can't risk killing people by accident. He came down and landed on the ground, where he high-fived Ben with his wing. Alright. Max and Gwen cheered. Max nearly exposed them though to the people watching. Way to go, B-dash. Diamond-headed guy and giant dinosaur. But Ben didn't care. In fact, he showed up. Oh yeah. Who's bad? Yeah. Max and Gwen desperately pointed at the people looking at him, facepalming when he didn't get the memo. Woa. Sighing, Flightmare grabbed onto him and took to the sky, not before grabbing the remaining parts of the alien, and disappeared out of nowhere. If he put some actual effort into flying, normal humans wouldn't even see his movement. A/N, you know, now I get why they give Ben the wrong aliens. He would dog the shit out of everyone if he got the right aliens, lol. By the way, hope you liked his boss alien. And as you would expect, Alistair isn't going to use this alien in every fight. After all, it's freaking massive. Don't forget, max-size Humongosaur is 60 feet, 18.3 meters tall. Chapter 7, CH6, Really Ben? E2, ugh, who would have expected that fire to be a distraction? Gwen groaned, serious as Max chased the robbers, and Ben's taking care of the burning building. Hey, Al. The veteran looked at the noirette in the mirror. We have to pick up Ben on the way, but we can't lose the robbers. Can you handle it? Already on it. Alistair kept turning his Nemetrix, groaning, ugh, I wish I had small and fast besides actual kaijus for predators too sometimes. Oh, whatever. Switch to alien mode. The mature British AI spoke, switching to alien mode. The symbol changed from fangs to an hourglass, and Alistair quickly found the alien he was looking for. All right, it's time to hunt. Pushing it down, he transformed with a red light.
Winter.
His ghostly voice came, along with a chill that filled the RV. Whoa. Gwen shivered. Can you please not transform into that in the car? It always makes this place chilly. Causing the alien to snicker, hence the name Gwen. Anyway, I'm off to hunt now. Catch you later. He jumped up, but instead of hitting the ceiling, he disappeared and emerged from the roof, before unfolding his wings and flying. What the hell is that thing? One of the robbers said, while the driver growled, whatever it is, it has to go. Take care of that thing. Go to hell, you fucking freak. Pulling down the window, he started shooting at Winter, who simply went intangible, but his blue figure remained. This is America intensifies. He mused, oh, shoot the ice ghost who's intangible, how smart. You must have been the top of your class, eh? Snickering, he went completely invisible. Hearing the loud screeching of tires, he looked back to see the rust bucket fast approaching with heat blast in the passenger seat. And there's the disadvantage of going invisible. Your allies can't see you either. Where did it go? The robbers searched frantically, but they were shocked by the ice breath that suddenly froze the entire car. What the fuck? Frozen in seconds, they could no longer drive the car. It simply slid on the ground. Time to take care of some trash. He made himself visible, shocking the trio behind as he descended towards the frozen car, sweet dreams. And punched it, causing it to shatter into a million pieces. Unfortunately, he couldn't kill some mere robbers. He grabbed them both, before launching them at a wall. Ugh. They screamed in pain. He couldn't kill them, but nobody said anything about breaking a few bones. If that didn't teach you a lesson, feel free to give me a reason to come and find you. He said coldly, before trapping their body from the neck down in ice. Sirens approached quickly, before police cars pulled aside and aimed their guns. Freeze. Winter glanced at the robbers, already on it. He was shocked for a moment, before giving orders, arrest them. Already on it too. Winter mumbled before he saw the cop approaching with a smile. Thanks for the help. Whatever you are. The alien chuckled, giving a two-finger salute. You're welcome, officer. It was my pleasure. And taking off after going invisible. The RV hadn't stopped for him, careful of not being suspicious, but instead slowed down for him to quickly find it. Winter flew towards it, before phasing through. I'm back. To see Heat Blast had already transformed back into Ben. Nice work, partner. The brunette fist bumped him, the alien nodding. Nice work. You took care of your part safely too. Smirking smugly, Ben leaned back, hands behind his head. You already know it. Got everybody out safe and sound. I see that you didn't have any trouble either. Trouble? Against who? Two bozos. They snickered. Max smiled at the two. Good job, boys. Things could have been disastrous if you hadn't helped out. Walking back, Winter sat opposite of Gwen, behind the table, glad to be of help. So where are we going now, Grandpa? Gwen looked at Max, who smiled. I was planning on stacking up on some ingredients. Apparently, there's a supermarket that has whatever you want. I wanted to see if they had some of the rare ingredients I need to make some actual good food. Oh God, please don't let there be any. Gwen mumbled to herself, holding her face with her hands. The three youngsters already knew what horrors Max was going to cook just from his excited tone. When it came to food and cooking, the old man being excited was never a good thing. Oh, come on, don't act like that. The old man looked at his grandchildren, learn a thing or two from Alistair. He knows how to appreciate actual food and delicacies. Winter, who hadn't timed out yet, felt two glares on him. I blame you for this. Gwen glared, speaking quietly. If only you hadn't given him an excuse, we wouldn't be in this situation. He sighed, whispering, don't blame me, blame the watch for changing my appetite and taste buds. And come on, that's not true. You know he would have made those foods even if not because of me. Yeah, but at least it wouldn't be to this extent. She double face-palmed, sobbing comically. The foods Grandpa makes are getting worse by the day. I can still feel the octopus tentacle squirming in my stomach. A/N, I wasn't the only one who thought about it right. Oh boy, that could so easily be taken out of context. Next day, the group had come to the supermarket Max had talked about, the Megamart. M-Mart for short. While Max was pushing the shopping cart, the kids were looking around. And suddenly, Ben grew excited. And that always screamed trouble. Quietly, without anybody noticing, he sneaked into a certain aisle. If I remember right, Dr. Animo will show up in this episode, right? Alistair thought. After all, it had been a long time since he had watched Ben 10. He remembered only some crucial parts. Only canned octopus. Max got his attention. I thought this store prided itself on wide selection. Poor Gwen almost pleaded, Grandpa, no offense, but can we have a normal dinner for once? You know, one that doesn't involve stir-fried tentacles. Max just laughed. Nonsense. Now where do you suppose they keep the sheep's bladders? As her shoulders slumped in disappointment, Alistair patted her shoulder in pity. But their attention was pulled away by the loud beep and bright flash of green that lasted for a second. Please tell me what I think just happened didn't just happen. Alistair closed his eyes, while Gwen flared her nose. I'm afraid what you think just happened did just happen. They walked towards the aisle the light came from, leaving Max to find the ingredients himself. When they reached the aisle, they saw it to be a cereal aisle. Or was, at least. Almost all the boxes were wrecked. While Gwen gasped, Alistair had to close his eyes and take a deep breath to calm down his blood pressure. He had come to find out why people were so annoyed with Ben most of the time in the original. Ben. Gwen growled, looking for her troublesome cousin. And she found him thrashing around in a sumo smack cereal. Oh man. Another red card. He groaned from inside of the box, before Gwen grabbed him. Gotcha. She glared at Grey Matter, Alistair's favorite alien, which he had already scanned and copied. What are you doing? Looking for the gold sumo slammer card, duh. Grey Matter said in a matter-of-fact manner, and Gwen scolded him. You're supposed to use your powers to help people, not find some stupid trading card. And with Grey Matter of all things? Alistair sighed in disbelief. Obviously, Grey Matter hadn't raised Ben's intelligence when it came to anything non-scientific. Suddenly, they heard a cough from behind, and Alistair found the urge to punch Ben really tempting. Just what do you think you're doing, kids? Hiding him behind her, the two turned to the glaring shop worker. Gwen was about to explain, but the Noirette beat her to it. It wasn't us, sir. He put on the best innocent face he could, which he knew was effective with his looks. We heard something when we were shopping with our grandpa, so we came to see what was going on. And we saw this place wrecked like this. And from how the man's face eased up a bit, he knew it worked. He held back his evil smile. You mean you two didn't do this? The man raised an eyebrow, frowning, but not at them. Meanwhile, Gwen was smiling and nodding, trying to go with Alistair's acting. She was really shocked by his acting though. 1 second, he was the confident normal Alistair, and the next second, he looked like the most innocent boy with his wide eyes and voice. No sir, we didn't. He hurriedly shook his head. I swear it wasn't us too. Our grandpa would kill us if we ruined the store like this. And if we wanted something, we would just ask him to buy it for us instead of stealing it. Technically, it's the truth. After all, we too didn't do this. Hehehehe. Huh? Then who would have? The old man scratched his head. Alistair had his charisma on max, because the old man was convinced right away. But still feeling a bit guilty, and to deal the finishing blow, he picked up several cereal boxes that thankfully hadn't been spilled, just opened. Sir, how about this? It wouldn't be fair if we paid for everything, since us two weren't the ones to do this. But we can still buy some of the ones here since we were going to do so anyway. Well, hu allrecht Kit. The old man finally smiled, stroking the Noirette's head. Thanks for not letting these things go to waste. At least the loss will be lowered somewhat with you buying a few. You're a kind child. He, happy to be of help. He smiled innocently, letting the man pet him before he sighed. Well, you two can go then. I'm sorry for making you nervous and accusing you of what you didn't do. I'll just go and come back with a few of the staff to clean this place. All right then, take care. He smiled and waved goodbye, before his smile and acting vanished. All right, let's go. When he didn't get an answer, he turned to see Gwen staring at him in absolute shock, mouth wide open, along with Grey Matters. Alistair, what? Careful, or a fly might fly into your mouth. Gwen, what was that? Alistair, what was what? Grey Matter, what just happened? What did just happen? Alistair, oh that? It was nothing. Gwen, you completely fooled the guy. Grey Matter, I didn't know you were such an actor. Alistair, shrugging, I didn't either. It just came so naturally. Gwen, guilty, but was that a good thing? I mean, we technically did do this. Alistair, no, we didn't. Ben did. And I never said Ben didn't. I just said we didn't. And if you're going to feel guilty about something, feel guilty for Grandpa Max's pockets. Ben easily messed up at least 50 cereal boxes here. And if we consider the price of each cereal box here as just $10, that would be a total of $500. And that's if it's just 50 boxes. As you can see, There's definitely more than just 50 boxes. Would you like it if Grandpa Max paid $1,000 for just cereal boxes? Gwen, well no. Hurrah, you've got a point, that's too much. Gritting her teeth, if only a certain someone actually used the brain, the specialty of his alien, we wouldn't be in this situation. Grey matter, hey. Alistair, glaring, she has a point and you know it, Ben. Also, you owe me a big one for this. Grey matter, oh whatever. Alistair, and besides Gwen, this means we'll have something else to eat than Grandpa Max's food for a while. Gwen, smiling brightly, yeah that's true. Phew, maybe this wasn't such an unlucky thing after all. Grey matter, you're welcome. Alistair/Gwen, shut up, you're not getting any. Grey matter, what? Why not? Gwen, you're supposed to be the smart one at the moment. So figure it out yourself. Chapter 8, ch7, Dr. Animo, E2. So, why are we buying all this cereal? Max said, looking at the 5 boxes of Sumo Smacks cereal Alistair and Gwen placed in the shopping cart. Fortunately for Ben, the two had agreed to keep what happened a secret, so Max was genuinely just confused. Why would they need cereal when they had his special breakfast of worm soup? Oh, nothing. Ben saw that a kid had gotten his favorite trading card that he had been looking for from these boxes. So he figured he'd try his luck. Alistair covered for his troublesome friend, who had his arms folded grumpily, and we wouldn't have needed to get 5 of them either if Gwen and Alistair hadn't butted in with their big butts. If I had a nickel for every time that Ben called Gwen's butt big, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Ben, Alabama? Leaving Max even more confused. But used to them quarreling, he just decided to continue shopping, leaving the trio to themselves. Gwen glared at Ben. Hello, you were trashing the whole cereal aisle just to find some stupid piece of cardboard. Ho ho ho, you're playing a dangerous game, Gwen. Don't let any Yu-Gi-Oh player hear that. Alistair, Ben, I understand that you have a hobby, but now you're just acting obsessed for no reason. You could have literally just bought them from someone for a lot less than what we'd have to pay for if I wasn't here. Ben, maybe you're right, Al. I don't deserve a gold sumo slammer card. Annoyed, I mean, it's not like I rescued a bunch of people from a burning building or anything like that. Gwen, superhero guilt, pretty low. Ben, smirking, hey, whatever it takes. Alistair, holding his forehead, you goddamn idiot. You're so stupid. Ben, glaring, why are you so annoyed with this anyway if it's just a piece of cardboard? Alistair, I'm not annoyed at what you did, I'm annoyed at how freaking stupid you were at doing it, you idiot. Like, seriously, Grey matter. Ben, confused, what? What are you talking about? Alistair, you literally have an alien ghost that can turn invisible and phase through things. If not that, you have an alien that can go faster than sound. Yet instead of those, you picked Grey matter. For what? Because he was tiny. You could have literally looked into the boxes without even touching them and gotten what you wanted without anybody seeing you, or just searched all of them in seconds and put them in their place. You're so stupid it's not even funny, dude. Ben, oh. Gwen, confused, are you scolding him or encouraging him? Alistair, if he's going to do something, he might as well do it right. If he had, we wouldn't be in that mess to begin with. Gwen, ooh. Ben, although I don't completely agree with his logic, he's got a point. You were stupid in your choice. Ben, awkward, ahem, who said I hadn't already thought about that? Obviously I was going to do just that, but the watch gave me the wrong aliens. Alistair, sure, and I'm ugly. Ugh, you're so grumpy. Whatever, I'm going after Grandpa. As Ben walked grumpily, Gwen noticed Alistair looking behind him. Specifically, at his own butt. She raised an eyebrow, what are you doing? He turned to her, unsure and pouting a bit, I don't actually have a big butt, do I? She smirked, looking at his shapely but, actually no you do. Noticing his pout growing, with a blush appearing too, she snickered as she started walking, guess Ben can say some smart things after all. These 2 brats. Embarrassed, he frowned. Looking back for a moment, his shoulders slumped, sighing, I hope these 2 are just trying to be annoying. Being a superhero with a bubble but would be way too embarrassing. And followed after them. But when Ben saw something sumo slammer card related, he quickly went off to check it out. He was ignored, only getting a glare from Gwen as she walked with Max and Alistair. Let's check out the pet department. Max looked at the 2, and Gwen panicked, please tell me you aren't looking for our breakfast. Max, what nonsense are you saying, Gwen?
Gwen seid in relief.
Max, I can't cook living animals. I have to buy the processed ones. Gwen, disgusted, I totally walked into that one. Alistair, patting her shoulder, don't worry, we've stocked up on actual food for a few days. If cereal counts, at least. Gwen, ugh, this makes me feel like letting Ben mess around isn't such a bad thing. Coo. He snickered, by the way, isn't this the episode Dr. Animo is supposed to show up in? When is that lunatic going to come? I crave asses to kick. And just then, the sound of something hitting the ground came. Yes, the ass gods have heard me. Smiling evilly, craving the high of the hunt and violence, he turned to see a giant frog with 4 eyes and horns landing meters away from them, with a man riding it. Non-sexually, of course. Max and Gwen gasped at the sight, and the man reached out to the circular machine on his chest. Turning it, an eclectic bridge was created between the horns of his helmet, before it was shot at the group. Ah! Max and Gwen screamed as the veteran pushed the kids away from the lightning, causing it to hit the hamster in the cage. Instantly, it began to grow rapidly, mutating into a monster from an adorable fluff ball. Now the size of a dog, it jumped up, and eyed the trio hungrily. Something that irked Alistair the wrong way for some reason. It didn't attack, however. It seemed to obey the commands of the man who had mutated it, Dr. Aloysius Animo. The man who shot another electric laser at a beautiful parrot next, turning it into a giant bird, even bigger than the frog. The poor hamster was only one tiny one. Arise to your full potential, my pets. Dr. Animo cheered. From the corner of his eye, the Noirette saw his buddy arriving, but couldn't pay much attention to him. Not because they were in danger, but because the way the fucking hamster was looking at him was genuinely making him angry. Huh? Oh man. What kind of pet food are they selling around here? Ben gasped. As his mutated monsters stood to his sides, with him sitting on top of one, Dr. Animo looked pretty smug. Behold the genius of Dr. Animo. Nothing can stop me from getting what I deserve. Mark my words. Today, I will make history, or should I say prehistory. Bah. Alistair gave a thumbs down, causing the lunatic to glare. Nobody boos Dr. Animo. Especially not brats like you. Said Brat scoffed. Oh please. Get off of that fugly thing and even the prehistorians would roast your ass. Al, I really think you shouldn't antagonize the villain with a monster army. Gwen panicked. And for emphasis, said monsters took a step forward in intimidation. But all it did was piss him off. He could feel a vein popping on his neck as his lips twitched in annoyance. Alistair, I really think this is a good time to go hunting or something. Gwen shook his shoulders. Reaching out to his Nemetrix, he basically just growled, don't need to tell me twice. His pushed the activated watch down, and Gwen cursed herself for being so close to him. Grar. Predator, the Vulpamander predator of the Vulpamancer species, slammed down his claws on the ground, cracking it as he growled at the mutants. Instinctively afraid, they backed off, while Dr. Animo looked at Predator in amazement. Remarkable. How did you do that? No, you don't need to answer. I'll get them myself out of your corpse when I capture you. Grar. The beast roared in rage, launching at the hamster. It screeched, biting at the beast. But all it got was shattered teeth and a bleeding mouth thanks to the protruding scales. Roaring, he stabbed with his claws, causing it to screech in pain as he picked it up and slammed it so hard it bounced 2 meters away. Grar. Predator instantly turned to Dr. Animo, who flinched unconsciously, before jumping onto the parrot when he attacked the frog. The monstrous frog attacked with its tongue, but Predator dodged, and bit the tongue. It screamed, trying to retract its hurting tongue. However, the real pain came when Predator flexed his claws, and severed the tongue he was restraining. But he wasn't done. Before it could pull back its tongue, Predator grabbed onto it with his claws for maximum sadism, and pulled hard enough to have the frog come shooting towards him, the tongue nearly getting ripped in the process. With the frog fast approaching, he jumped straight into its stomach, and began tearing it apart from inside out. Whether it was with his claws, fangs, tail or scales, he used everything in his arsenal of natural weaponry to rip it apart piece by piece. The frog's screams of agony filled the place, and the trio gasped at the viciousness. Even Dr. Animo, a lunatic, was taken aback. Sure, Alistair wasn't really the gentle type when fighting. Broken bones and smashed teeth were the least villains, robbers and such had to worry about. But they had never seen him act with such a resolve to kill. To absolutely mutilate. Not like an animal that did so because of hunger, but like a predator, simply because he could. The pained wailing of the frog drew weaker and weaker, until it finally collapsed, not to rise again. And from its corpse, a bloody clawed arm burst open, before he tore his way out and set his non-existent eyes on Dr. Animo, who trembled at the sight of the beast drenched in blood and organs. Mindless fool, you cannot stop me. He pointed accusingly. I will turn Washington, D.C. into Washington, B.C. And before the monster could attack, he flew away on the back of his monstrous parrot. I should kill you just because of your retarded jokes. Predator growled. Like, what the hell are you going to do? Bring back Jesus? At least make jokes that have meanings. What your life doesn't have. Damn it, this is why I dislike the fact my predators can't speak. I couldn't roast him and have the last laugh. Shah. With a sudden screech, the mutated hamster leaped onto him, trying to slash at him with its claws. Predator could have just stood there and relished in the sound of its claws and fingers breaking, but he didn't like his current toy. Merely pulling back to dodge, he opened his mouth so wide he bit off more than half of the monstrous hamster's neck when he went for the kill. Even as life was already leaving it, it wasn't enough. He started twisting it left and right so much and so hard its body and head were eventually disconnected. As its body flew away, crashing into an aisle and knocking it down, with a scoff, Predator ate the head in his mouth completely in just a few bits. Hooray for Predator's fast and efficient eating and digestion. With the hunt down, he calmed down with a huff and turned to the trio. Just to see Ben and Gwen looking a bit pale while covering their mouth and looking away, barely holding themselves back from throwing up. Probably had something with how bloody he was. Or the bladder on his shoulder. Or the heart stuck to his tail. Probably all of them. Yup, definitely all of them, and then some. Max looked fine though. Not surprising, considering his experience. He nodded at the veteran, before he took a run for it. But as he escaped from where Animo had come from, he located a certain something with his echolocation. Something golden. Far away, a certain white-haired lady was spying with far too advanced of binoculars, a giant smile etched on her beautiful face. Oh my goodness. Just look at how domineering and viscous he was. He looked so freaking cool. As expected of my Al, he really knows how to deal with things quickly. Oh, how I wish I could help him. But I can't complain either, the sight of him going wild like that is so good. Chapter 9, Ch8, Clash of the Titans, E2 Kya. The high-pitched screaming of the parrot echoed, with the Tennysons and Alistair hot on its tail with the RV. The cousins didn't look so good though. They both looked a bit shaken. After all, which 10-year-old wouldn't be scared after seeing such a bloody thing? They watched a frog get mutilated from the inside out, then watched a hamster get slaughtered. It was a surprise how the two weren't taking turns puking their guts out in the restroom. Though Gwen wasn't showing it much, since she was researching on who they were up against. Ah, just like the good old days before I retired. Max attempted to help them relax. Didn't help much, but Gwen tried to relax. So exactly what kind of plumber were you, Grandpa? Alistair smirked as the old man tried to fix his mess. A darn good one. By the way, Al, what was that in the mall? Don't you think you went a bit overboard there? I'm sorry, Grandpa Max, but I don't know what got over me. The Noirette sighed. I like animals, you know that. The frog one thing, but I wouldn't have attacked the hamster so viciously normally. But when I was being looked at like that, like it thought of me as food, something made me really angry. Even now, remembering it really, seriously annoys me. Like you were considered prey. Max mumbled, glancing at the Nemetrix. He had a hunch, but he really hoped that wasn't the case. Bingo. The redhead suddenly cheered. 5 years ago, Dr. Animo was a promising researcher in veterinary science, but it turned out he was doing all these twisted genetic experiments where he was mutating animals, and when he didn't win some big prize called the Verities Award, he flipped out. Anything about this sound familiar, Ben? She raised an eyebrow at the boy sitting across from her, who just glared and focused on not hurling when remembering the scenes from a while ago, confusing Max, who didn't know about Ben's stunt. The parrot they were following let out a shriek loud enough for them to hear, before it flew into the jungle of buildings, losing the followers. Ben, we've lost him. He could be going anywhere in Washington, D.C., Gwen, or Washington, B.C. Alistair rolling his eyes. God, that's so bad. He fails at making prehistoric puns so bad. Ben, that's it. I know where he's going. The Natural History Museum. Walking up to the entrance of the museum, Ben picked up a large feather beside the broken wall. Something tells me we're on the right track. Max smiled. Good thinking, Ben. Gwen smiling. Guess even a doofus can surprise you once in a while. Ben smiling. And you should know. Alistair smirking. If this is going where I think it's going, I'm going to have a lot of fun. Gwen raising an eyebrow. And where exactly are you thinking this is going? Alistair. Oh, nothing. Just a little clash of the titans. They walked in, looking around at the numerous fossils. Searching for the lunatic scientist. Ben found an empty box, before they saw Animo messing with his DNA transmodulator, who noticed them. You are very persistent. I hate persistent. Ben, we all know about you and your freakazoid experiments, Dr. Animo. It's over. Animo, oh, but it's only just begun. See, I only needed a few components to push my work into phase 2, the reanimation of dormant cells. Ben confused, does this guy come with subtitles? Alistair, he's saying he can revive the dead now. Ben, oh, he could have just said that. Animo, smart boy, that's right. Breathing life back into that which has been long since lifeless. Observe. Twisting the machine on his chest, the horns of his helmet glowed, before electricity was shot at the fossil of the woolly mammoth beside him. It glowed brightly, before its eyes glowed red, and a menacing roar was ripped out of its chest, causing the shocked group to take a step back. Unidentified DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. New non-sentient species and predator DNA unlocked. Mammothus primigenius, woolly mammoth, and Smilodon populator, saber-toothed tiger. A/N. Pay attention to this detail, species, not alien. This will be important, since it means just an animal or such has been scanned. Not a sentient being, just a non-sentient being that isn't classified as a predator. So just normal space animals. Oh, it can even do this. Sweet. Behold the genius that is Dr. Animo. He smiled smugly before running away. Alistair said dryly, he really likes saying that, doesn't he? Before Gwen spoke up nervously, now would be a really good time to go hero and hunting, boys. No duh. Ben nodded seriously. I'll leave Animo to you and them. I'll take care of Jumbo. Slamming down the Omnitrix, he turned into a hulking red figure with 4 arms. Let's wrestle. And ran at the huge mammoth. A/N, you know, Faram's size is seriously inconsistent. At some point, he's somewhat bigger than an adult. At another point, Max is less than half his height. Which one do you think is the size of Alistair's centimines? It's the name of the 100-handed giants of Greek mythology. Hope you like the name. Grabbing the tusks of the giant, he forced it to the ground, A/N, and mounted him, opening the way for the others. The trio left the mammoth to Ben, but we're stopped by the shrieking, mutated parrot. Just as Alistair was about to transform, Gwen grabbed the spear of the ancient human figure, spinning it before she slammed it on the parrot's head. After the second hit, which destroyed the spear, the parrot took a run for it, shrieking in pain. The redhead looked back at the surprised duo, and smirked at the Noirette. You two doofuses aren't the only ones with skills. Max and Alistair looked at each other, before shrugging and following after her. They found Animo again. Just this time, aiming at a Tyrannosaurus Rex. In their shocked eyes, the smirking lunatic caused all the flesh and cells of the ancient beast to return in only a matter of moments. Unidentified DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. New predator unlocked, Tyrannosaurus Rex. It stepped off of its platform, causing the ground to shake, before it roared at the trio. Animo got on top of the obedient dinosaur, laughing haughtily. I'd love to stay, but I need to claim the award I so richly deserve. Alistair, do you want to continue our argument of if your T-Rex is stronger than an actual Tyrannosaurus Rex or not? Gwen turned to the smirking boy. Do you even need to ask? Sorry, Animo, but you're not going anywhere. Instead, how about you pick someone your own size? Pushing the Nemetrix down, the bright red light illuminated the place, before the giant Chaosifex Ultimosauria, the predator of Humongosaur, a dinosaur with 4 legs and 6 small arms appeared. The dinosaurs stood face to face, ready to brawl. But there was a problem. Alistair hadn't gone full size. It was an ability that wasn't used in the original, since there was no need to go anything but the max size when the goal was to hunt. Kaiba wasn't one to fool around after all. He wasn't one to play around, he wanted to hunt. But Alistair had found out about this ability when he had first transformed. The Chaosifex Ultimosauria can alter its size like the Vaxosaurians. It was how it was sometimes bigger than its actual size in other times. So knowing this, Alistair had held back while as T-Rex. A/N, I know it's just because of mistakes and whatnot in the show, but I wanted an actual clash of the titans between a prehistoric dinosaur and an alien dinosaur. Not just T-Rex slapped it, Tyrannosaurus Rex died kind of fight. And the ability is cool too, so I hope you like it. After all, it wasn't every day that he could fight an actual dinosaur. He wanted to fight. He wanted to feel the violence. He wanted that smoke. And he wanted to feel what it was like to hunt down one of the most powerful predators of his planet ever. But he couldn't do that while in the normal size of T-Rex. After all, in that case, Animo's T-Rex would be tiny compared to T-Rex. Just like the average Tyrannosaurus Rex, Animo's T-Rex was around 40 feet, 12.1 meters, in length and 12 feet, 3.65 meters in height. However, Alistair's T-Rex, the predatory species of Vaxosaurians, was on a whole nother size. 70.9 feet, 21.6 meters in length, 43.6 feet, 13.3 meters in height. The poor Tyrannosaurus Rex would look like a child in front of T-Rex. It was no surprise. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was the same size as the Vaxosaurians, which looked tiny in front of T-Rex. There had been instances where Tyrannopede had fit Humongosaur entirely in its mouth. So the Tyrannosaurus Rex looking small compared to it would really not be a surprise. Also, thanks to T-Rex's body being so dense that even Vaxosaurians, being that can pick up and toss to custers, way big, can't hold them up for long, there was no chance for the Tyrannosaurus Rex to even put up a fight. A/N, now you understand what I mean by T-Rex slapped it, Tyrannosaurus Rex died? What in blazes? Animo grew shocked. He had seen the boy transform, but hadn't expected him to turn into an actual dinosaur. Growling, Rex roared at T-Rex. He roared back, loud enough to shake the place, and nearly enough to burst everyone's eardrums if he hadn't held back. Their intentions were obvious, so they didn't waste time. They launched at each other, and Alistair managed to bite its upper mouth and nose. The dinosaur roared in pain, trying to get him off and biting at T-Rex's jaw in its mouth. Shaking and turning violently, Rex managed to get away, but not before T-Rex dug into its flesh and tore it when Rex pulled away. Angered, it went for his neck immediately. And T-Rex, inexperienced, was grabbed by the neck. Fangs were pressured to dig into him instantly, and he roared in pain. Twisting and turning, it tried to get away. But the bite and jaw strength of Rex was monstrous. You all know what the heck? Forearms rushed in, just to see two dinosaurs fighting. But one look at the Nemetrix symbol, and he understood what was happening. Alistair? Geez, things got pretty messy when I wasn't around.
Ooh, hello.
Aren't you going to help him? Gwen said in disbelief. However, the Tetraman simply folded his arms, smirking. Do you actually think he needs or wants help? Look at that smile. He was correct. When Max and Gwen looked, they saw T-Rex smiling excitedly, hungrily as he gave a sharp twist, freeing himself before he struck Rex with his thorny tail, causing several deep wounds to open on its side, before he charged and slammed into Rex. The horn on his head stabbing into it, before he was knocked down.
Whoa.
Animo screamed, falling as Rex hit the ground. With no hesitation, T-Rex went for its neck, causing Rex to roar in pain, thrashing around to escape.
No.
I won't let you. Animo shouted, activating his DNA transmodulator, but was stopped by two sets of arms restraining him. Oh no, you don't. Forearms kept him out of the fight between the titans. Rho, AAA, R. Its newly gained life slowly left it with each second. And finally, with a sharp twist and foot on its body for support, T-Rex snapped Rex's neck clean off its body. Spitting away the severed head, T-Rex roared into the sky, announcing his victory as hopelessness took over Animo. No. My rightful prize. Causing Forearms to smack his head. Oh, shut up already, you obsessed idiot. Now I get why those two are annoyed with me. Chapter 10, CH9, Big Brain, E2, let me go. The handcuffed Dr. Animo struggled as he was escorted by the police. I deserve that award. I've got it coming to me. I want it. Forced into the car, he saw Ben looking at him, conflicted. For some reason, that sounds kind of familiar.
You?
Animo's eyes landed on Alistair, who smirked when he met his eyes. All because of you freaks. I was going to succeed and get what I rightfully deserve. And I'd have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for you meddling freaks. Cuckoo, is that a Scooby-Doo reference? I didn't get that cold sumo slammer card, but at least we snagged a trophy from Animo. Inside of the moving RV, Ben smirked, leaning back in his seat. Plus, I guess saving the city from Dr. Wacko is its own reward. Max chuckled. Of course. Don't forget, Ben, being a hero isn't about others knowing you did something good, it's about you knowing you did something good. Being a hero is its own reward. Grandpa, was that a quote from one of the greeting cards in the Megamart? Ben snickered, causing Max to chuckle. Hey, I have to expand my knowledge one way or another. After all, nobody knows everything. You learn something new every minute, and your thirst for knowledge grows as you grow. He looked at Alistair's reflection in the mirror, like what AL's doing right now. They all turned to look at Alistair, not Max. His eyes were on the road, who was now in his cerebrocrustacean form, the super-smart alien with 1 nonillion, 10 to the power of 30 IQ, named BrainStation by him. With the curtain closed so he wouldn't be seen from the other drivers, he was inspecting the DNA transmodulator he had taken from Animo. Unharmed, mind you. He wanted to study it, after all. Like how he was doing so currently. A/N, I just noticed his name was BrainStation and not BrainStation, which I had intended to be since it sounded like BrainStation. I fixed it though. Most fascinating. He said intellectually, with high vocabulary, a device which enables a species to evolve decades, and mind I say, centuries in a matter of moments. However, its instability causes drawbacks such as the cells and DNA of the creatures being unable to adapt to such a rapid evolution, which results in the mutations we have observed previously. I would have most definitely not expected a human to be able to invent a device such as this. It wouldn't be no surprise if a cerebrocrustacean such as I, or a Galvan, who are of the most advanced intellectual beings in the universe, were to invent this. But it is most surprising that a low-intelligent being such as a human was able to make this device, even though it is so faulty and unflattering in appearance. But still, its effects and technology makes up for its shortcomings. And with the intelligence of a being such as I, fixing those errors and faults and turning this device into its perfect version would be nothing. Ben mumbling, I really don't like it when he speaks like that. Gwen, wait, did you just say the names of species of your aliens? BrainStation, HM? Of course, my dear friend. Does it come as that much of a surprise for you for me to achieve such a small feat? Gwen, but how? BrainStation, simple, I just accessed the information archives of the device I possess. Learning about the names, strengths and weaknesses of my aliens and predators was nothing after that. Ben, you can do that?
Brainstation. Le gasp.
How could you possibly presume that I wouldn't be able to perform such little action, my dear partner, just because your intelligently inferior Galvan form wasn't able to? I take great offense to your accusations and underestimation of my intelligence.
Ben. Galvan?
Which one is that? Max, I think he's talking about grey matter. Ben, oh, that makes sense. Wait, you're not smarter than me. I'm smarter while I'm grey matter. Brainstation smirking, the evidence of me being 10-0 ahead of you in our chess matches speaks differently, my boy. Ben glaring, Goor. Gwen, okay, enough arguments about which one of you dweebs is smarter. Al, do you think it was a good idea to take Animo's weird machine and not give it to the police instead?
Brainstation. Le gasp.
How could you have such foolish ideas, Gwendolyn? I thought you would be the smart one among you two cousins. Did you truly presume I would hand over such an advanced and interesting device to some low-intelligent beings, who I would typically call buffoons, like humans? I was offended enough with how Ben treated it so carelessly. It's simply not possible for me to hand over such an interesting device to someone else.
Gwen. Jeez, allrecht.
Relax, I'm sorry. Ben, you turned out to be a lot bigger bookworm than I had thought, you know? You even collected pieces of that giant robot we took down. What do you want to do with these anyway? Brainstation, oh, nothing. I just simply want to learn how it works and how to improve it so that no side effects or mutations will occur anymore. Which, for your information, I had finished doing so mere moments after I began studying it. Ahem, impersonating a certain lunatic such as the genius of Alistair.
Ha ha ha.
They all laughed before Brainstation smiled. By the way, it is most admirable that you have such a mindset about what we did, my dear partner. So I assume we won't be hearing any more of your complaining about not being rewarded.
Nah, I'm good.
After all, what better reward than saving lives? Ben kicked back and relaxed, smiling. A stupid cardboard is nothing in front of somebody's life. And I can collect them later on too. His relative smiled, but Brainstation smirked. Then I presume you wouldn't like these either? Confusing Ben when he took out a box he had hid. Walking to their table, he put the box in front of him. Ben, what's this? Brainstation, a box? I didn't think you would be mentally challenged to the degree to ask such questions, Ben. Gwen snickered. Ben glaring, I know what it is. I meant what is in the box. Brainstation, a black hole the size of 1 nonillion suns like my brain. What do you think, genius? Gwen started laughing loudly. Oh, whatever. Screw you, I'll just open it dash, and when he did so, his jaw fell open in pure shock. Sumo slammer cards. Filled to the brim. He even saw several gold ones among them. Stiffly, eyes wide open, he turned to look at the smirking Brainstation. I saw them when I was escaping from the scene in Megamart previously as a Vulpamander. I couldn't see their colors however, so I just took them all since I didn't want to miss any rare ones. You're most welcome. Dude, you're the best. Jumping to his feet, Ben hugged his massive head. Seriously, thanks so much. You have no idea how much I wanted a gold sumo slammer card. But now I have a bunch of them. Thanks a lot, I owe you one. Ha 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 ha, you're most welcome, my friend. He patted his back. Max and Gwen smiled at the wholesome scene, before they stopped hugging. Ben sat down excitedly. Whoa, look at these. I wonder which ones are there. Well, I'm happy to see you like the gift. Brainstation smiled before turning away. Now if you'll excuse me, I'll be spending my remaining time in my highly advanced intelligent form on useful things. Ha 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 ha, like what, big brain?
Gwen smirked.
Looking back, Brainstation smirked back. Oh, nothing. Just learning, observing, to see if I can create something I have in mind. And to do that, I need to make the best of my time at all times. And I would like to see if I can use Animo's DNA transmodulator on my own aliens and predators. To see if I can make them stronger. To see if I can evolve them. To see if I can turn them into their evolved, ultimate forms.
Ha 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 ha.
Chapter 11, CH10, I Love Saturdays, E3. HM. Alistair hummed a tone, working on a small machine in the RV. But as he was using a screwdriver for screwing a screw inside of the small machine he was making using the technology he had taken from the robot, the machine short-circuited, causing smoke to rise. Tisk, damn it, again. He rubbed his eyes. The problem of being a 10-year-old was that his body would get tired really quickly. He hadn't gotten used to sleeping late, so he would get tired pretty quickly. His Nemetrix hadn't recharged either to become one of his smart aliens and work on what he was making. He had already transformed a while ago to do that for a while. And obviously, he wasn't smart enough to invent something himself. He would just record and write what needed to be done, and follow the footsteps he had set for himself as super genius aliens. This had become his routine. Fight whatever crime happened with Ben wherever they passed, then transform into his smart aliens to work on his device the other times. At least when he wasn't hanging out with the others. Whenever everybody was in their own world, he was in his own as well. HMGH? Al? You're still awake. It seemed like the electric surge of his device woke Max up. The Noirette apologized. Oh sorry, Grandpa Max didn't want to wake you up. The veteran smiled sleepily. It's all right, son. Just don't push yourself too much. Overworking yourself will only result in mistakes and failures. Thanks, Grandpa Max. Sweet dreams. Alistair smiled. Nodding, Max dozed off again, leaving the Noirette alone with his thoughts. Looking at the small object in his hand, he frowned. Why doesn't it work? There's always something wrong. Are the parts that I've been using not right? But I haven't seen any issues with it while as Brainstation, Brainstorm, Brainiac, Grey Matter, Tinkerer, Jury Rig or Upgrade. Is it because of the medium perhaps? Or is it that my approach is wrong? Or maybe I'm pushing it over the limit? Or dash. Grandpa Max is right, I should leave it for today. Hey, come on Al. Let's go for a swim. Ben came out of the bathroom after changing to his swimsuit. It was night, and they had parked the RV close to a large lake. Perfect place to go for a swim. Other times, he would have agreed. He liked swimming after all. But he truly was tired. And since he wasn't as active and excited as Ben, he didn't have any more energy to waste. They were all depleted. He smiled apologetically. Sorry Ben, but I'm gonna hit the bed for now. Yawn, I'm really tired. He stretched, before getting into his bed. Ah man. Seriously? Come on, it's just for a bit. Ben insisted, but he waved him off. Sorry Benji, but I really can't. Too tired. We'll play together tomorrow, alright? Ben sighed, shrugging. Alright, your loss. Before running off. Here I come, sweet embrace of sleep. He smiled sleepily, before the door was basically kicked open. Groaning, he looked to see Gwen readying her bed angrily, whispering in annoyance. That damn Ben. That stupid damn Ben. Cuckoo, did you get pranked? He whispered sleepily, voice huskier than normal. Gwen's head took a sharp turn to look at him, glaring, causing him to chuckle as he turned around. Whatever. Good night. And just as he closed his eyes, the loving embrace of sleep welcomed him. No, really. It was humongous with these red glowing eyes. Ben tried to convince his grandpa and cousin about what had happened to him last night, which was being attacked by a giant lake monster. The two didn't believe him though. Max, I'm sure it was just some kind of big fish. That's all. Gwen, Grimpy, yeah. So give the mega fish story a rest. Will you, Captain Dweeb? Alistair, but is it really that unbelievable after what we've seen? Gwen, you really believe him? Alistair, why wouldn't I? Max, well, it was night, and your sight is even weaker in the water, so I think Ben just mistook something. Alistair, Grandpa Max, we fought alien robots, mutated animals, a guy that can mutate said animals, and we have alien watches that can literally turn us into different beings. Is a lake monster really that far-fetched? Especially when Ben says it tossed forearms of all things. Ben, see. Finally, somebody who can understand logic. Max, that's true. Well, being careful never hurt anybody. Don't be paranoid, but still watch your steps, alright kids? Understood dash, just as the kids agreed, with Ben smiling and Gwen rolling her eyes, sharp winds began to flow. Protecting their eyes from the dust and debris, they turned to see something amazing. A giant yellow and orange airship which stopped on top of the forest and began to descend. Whoa, check that out. Ben said in amazement, while Alistair narrowed his eyes to see better. Wait, something like this shouldn't have happened in this episode. In fact, neither in any other episode. Also, that airship. Why does it look familiar? Wait, that airship is... Max's eyes widened in surprise, before smiling. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect to see them here. Confusing the children. Ben grew excited. Whoa, Grandpa, do you know whoever owns that airship? Seriously? Well, just old friends. Oh, actually, you might be able to meet and know them yourself. He nodded towards where the airship had landed, and they saw 5 people coming out of the forest. Well, 3 people and 2 animals. If you could call the 8-foot-tall, 2.43 m, gorilla cat with tawny fur a normal animal. The 5 included a muscular and tall middle-aged black man with short black hair and a streak of white going down the middle, an 11-year-old dark brown African-American boy with black hair and white spiky stripes above his forehead, the already mentioned 8-foot-tall, 2.43 m, gorilla cat with tawny fur, a freaking 6 feet, 1.82 meters, Komodo dragon, and a woman that took away Alistair and Ben's breath. She was tall and lean, with a body to die for. Long legs, thick thighs that amazed Alistair with her hip-to-waist ratio, a huge ass thanks to her hips that jiggled with every step, especially distinct with her jumpsuit, and breasts that made everybody gulp at first sight. But her body wasn't the only amazing thing about her. She was gorgeous appearance-wise. Perfect oval face, sharp eyes and eyebrows, a straight nose, plump and succulent lips that made Alistair's tongue feel fidgety, and long white hair that reached the middle of her back. Image. She was easily the most gorgeous woman the Noirette had ever seen face to face. And from their orange and black uniforms, along with their giant airship, he had a pretty good idea of who they were. Yet another childhood cartoon, and the first MILF probably every kid had a crush on. The Secret Saturdays, and the legendary MILF, Drew Saturday. A/N, a wild love interest has appeared. Yes, she's going to be a lover. I don't like surprises and edging my readers, that's for when I'm in my uncle mode, so I'll let you know the good news already. I just hate how MILFs get shown so much in comics and such, pretty sexually in fact, but never become the love interest. Instead, a violent fucking tsundere gets chosen. No offense, but fuck you some authors out there. This isn't harem though. The love interests will be Charmcaster plus her. I've already had this debate with a reader, so let me clarify. Harem, 4 years now, has been a Japanese loser MC having a harem as big as a football team with full bench players, but still too much of a pussy to fuck, and heck, even get actually physical with them. That's not happening here. This is basically polygamy here, and believe me, you'll see smut really soon if there's a chance. And if you know me and my MC, you'll know that he's smart enough to take advantage of being a shota. Do as you'd like with that information. So is it here? The gorgeous MILF glanced at her husband. Doc Saturday nodded, looking at the holographic screen showing on the wrist of his cybernetic glow. Yes, all the reports and historical legends point to this location. The amount of rumors and people who claim to have seen it also further proves it. Well, glad to see we didn't come all this way for nothing. Zack Saturday smirked, hands behind his head as Fiskerton Saturday nodded, mumbling something only they could understand. Komodo Saturday didn't say anything, just walked with them. That's true. Drew smiled before someone caught her eyes. Wait, is that Max? Catching Doc's attention. Max? Wait a minute, is that? He saw the man waving at them as well. Max Tennyson? Doc. Drew. Max waved, smiling as they all walked closer. Ha 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 ha, who would have expected we'd get to see you here? Doc smiled, shaking hands. Drew smirked, shaking hands as well. Definitely not me. How have you been? Max chuckling. Oh, same old, same old. Just enjoying my retirement. Drew smiling. Is that why you're here? Max. Ooh. Since it's summer vacation, I decided to tour around the state with my grandkids. Go on a little road trip so they can experience the world. It's them, I assume? Doc smiled, looking at the 3 kids, who looked quite amusing. Gwen acted how she would normally, but Ben and Alistair were quite funny. Mostly Ben though. The Noirette just had a bit of a blush as he smiled sheepishly, waving at them. Looking quite adorable to the older woman, who obviously knew why. He might be as deadly as a 19th century husband finding the food his wife made slightly cold while being an alien or a predator, but his danger level to the hearts and minds of older women sure as hell wasn't something to scoff at. Looking at his adorable face blushing cutely, flashing his pearl-like teeth in a sheepish smile, hardly able to take his crimson orbs off of her, trying to hide them behind his bangs, she couldn't help smiling at his cuteness. Reincarnated or not, he was still a teenager in his past life. No amount of self-control could stop him from staring at the most gorgeous woman he had ever seen. She was a MILF at that, which made it even harder. But Ben didn't have even that little of a self-control. His jaw had fallen wide open, staring at the face of the beautiful lady in amazement. Even if Alistair could understand him, it still didn't stop him from cringing. Embarrassed to be seen with him, he pushed his jaw up and shut his mouth before a fly flew in. Drew chuckled in amusement at how Alistair glared when his mouth fell open right away, before smacking the back of his neck in annoyance, causing the brunette to get out of his trance, before coughing in embarrassment and looking away. Yes, it's them. Max shook his head in amusement. This is Gwen, Ben, and Alistair. Say hello, kids. They waved awkwardly. Hello. Chuckling in amusement, Drew nodded. It's nice to meet you all, kiddos. And these are our kids. Zack, Fiskerton, and Komodo. You say hi too. Hi. They waved back, equally awkward. Not much, just feeling strange for needing to be intimate with people they didn't even know. Oh, Zek Fisk. Max patted the small boy's head, smiling at the inhuman one. I haven't seen you two in years. How have you been? Do you remember old Grandpa Max? Ah, the good old remember me? I used to wipe your ass when you were a kid. One of the classics. Ooh, of course I remember, Grandpa Max. How have you been? Zack smiled awkwardly, definitely not remembering jack shit. Beside him, Fisk nodded with him, smiling and saying things Alistair couldn't understand. Ugh, damn it. In the distance, where nobody could see her, the white-haired lady groaned behind her advanced binoculars. I thought I would get the chance to meet him first. Shit, damn you, Drew, don't you let this get to your head just 'cause you got lucky. Chapter 12, CH11, New human abilities?
E3.
Unidentified DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. Nemetrix said. But thankfully, the others couldn't hear it over their conversation. New cryptid DNA unlocked, Lemurian. New transformation mode unlocked, cryptid mode. Due to the cryptid species of planet Earth not having any species that have evolved to prey on them, no predator DNA will be unlocked upon scanning and unlocking cryptid species. Unidentified DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. New cryptid DNA unlocked, dragon. A/N, it's core hidden inside of Zack, by the way. Sorry for the spoilers, if you didn't know. Also, it's a Chinese dragon, and it will be named World Serpent. Hope that makes us even. Unidentified DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. New non-sentient species DNA unlocked, Komodo dragon. Due to the scanned species not having any natural predators, no predator transformation has been unlocked. Due to the scanned subject being a mutant, the unique abilities of the subject are also added to the abilities of the transformation. Man, this voice is just music to my ears. Alistair smirked to himself, but suddenly froze at the Nemetrix's following words. Altered DNA of existing DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. New evolution of existing human DNA unlocked, half-human/half cryptid. Proceeding to fuse the existing DNAs. Wait, what? His mind went blank for a moment as he felt a current of energy traveling all across his body, through every vein, bone and individual cell. But surprisingly, what he felt and experienced lasted less than a second. Akin to when he would transform. He shook his head to clear his mind, before, just like every first transformation, the knowledge of his aliens and predators' abilities instantly appeared in his mind. His breathing picked up because of the sudden experience, and his eyes widened at the realization of what he just experienced. Oh shit. No way. No fucking way, even this can happen? Before he knew it, the Nemetrix had copied the altered DNA of Zack, who wasn't just a human, and had fused it with Alistair's. The fact that the DNA of a human was scanned was surprising in itself, but the fact that he gained his powers too was the real surprise. And the strongest and prime version thanks to the Nemetrix's features, so he didn't even need to train like hell like Zack to develop his abilities, because they were already at the highest form. Zack Saturday, half-human/half cryptid. Enhanced strength. Enhanced speed. Enhanced durability. Enhanced stamina. Enhanced agility. Enhanced reflexes. Enhanced equilibrium. Regenerative healing factor. Cryptid influencing. Cryptid telepathy. He bit the inside of his mouth, stopping a psychotic smile from appearing, and just when you thought it couldn't get any more fun. Thanks a lot, Zack. Not only did you bring one of the hottest bitches in town, you even brought me free abilities. Stepdad here will make sure to treat you well in the future. So what are you guys doing here? Max smiled, patting his grandson's back. Knowing you, I don't assume it's just for vacation or fun. Chuckling, Doc shook his head. No, unfortunately. Just like usual, we're here to study another cryptid. A cryptid? Gwen's eyebrows shot up in curiosity. Drew nodded with a smile. Yes, that's right. We're actually scientists that study the supernatural. Our job is mainly to study cryptids. Specifically, we're cryptozoologists. Cryptids? Is that a legitimate job though? The redhead asked unsurely, causing Drew to laugh. Don't worry, Han, we're not crazy or delusional. Cryptids are real, just like Facfiction here. And we study them so we can protect them from going extinct. Hello. Facfiction waved with a smile. Although he couldn't speak English, he apparently could say some actual words that normal people could somewhat understand. The children wowed at the gentle giant in amazement, before Drew continued. The reason why you or anybody else doesn't know about them is simply because we're part of an organization called the Secret Scientists, a global organization with the goal of studying and safeguarding sciences considered too dangerous to be general public knowledge. Oh, they said in realization, before Alistair tilted his head curiously, already acting on rizzing up the MILF and appearing charming to her. But then why tell us? Aren't we included in the general public? And from how her lips twitched, trying to hold back a smile that would only appear when seeing something absolutely adorable like a kitten or a puppy, he knew it was working. Sometimes, he honestly wondered if his Nemetrix had affected his human form too and sent it to its prime, like how it would with his aliens and predators. Because damn, did he have looks despite being illegal? Ahem, not exactly. She coughed into her fist, calming down the urge to pinch and play with his soft-looking cheeks. A/N, which cheeks? _ After all, considering your grandpa's former job .
Ahem.
She was interrupted by a cough from Max. Drew thought she might as well tell you since she assumed I would do it later myself. He smiled, glancing meaningfully at the MILF. With a look of realization, both her and Doc understood that he was trying to keep some things hidden. Scientists are smart after all. Yeah, of course. She nodded. Max is an old friend of ours after all. We wouldn't mind it at all if he told you about us. Gwen looked a bit suspicious, but Ben, not so much. Instead, trying to impress the woman he instantly had a crush on, he smiled smugly. Well, if you study about the supernatural, you should study our alien dash. Before he was silenced by the two hands that slapped against his mouth, covering it and stopping him from saying anything else. The brunette mumbled in confusion, looking at Alistair and Gwen, who gave him unimpressed looks. Their action confused the Saturdays. Alistair hummed innocently, curiously, wait, if you study cryptids and you are here now, does that mean? Doc smirked, continuing his sentence, that there's a cryptid here? Yes, that's right. The name is pretty famous too. Have you ever heard of the Kraken? Ben's eyes went wide open, before he pushed away the hands blocking his mouth and smiling smugly at his relatives. See, I told you there was something in the water last night. The lake monster was the Kraken all along. Ah, well. Max smiled awkwardly. Doc's attention turned to Ben. You've seen it. The boy nodded rapidly. Yeah, I did. In fact, it attacked me. Causing the scientist to frown. Attacked you? Do you think it's a violent creature? He asked his wife. Drew, the Kraken has been recorded as a violent and bloodthirsty creature in the myth, but there hasn't been any sort of recorded incidents in this place. But it's weird that it suddenly attacked randomly. Ben mumbling, maybe the reason it's not recorded is because nobody believed the people who were attacked before. Max, ahem, then what are you going to do? Are you still going to study it? Drew smiling, of course. And if it really is a violent cryptid, we can't just let civilians get attacked and hurt. If this wasn't a random incident, we'll work to relocate it to a place where people won't bother it. But first, we have to find the big fella. Wait, are you going to look for the Kraken? Ben gasped, before smiling excitedly. Can I please come along? Please, pretty please. Just like in the original timeline, he was enthusiastic about finding the ancient beast. But this time, he also had another reason. Who wouldn't want to spend more time with the sexiest MILF they had ever seen? Especially a kid like him. Alistair nodded beside him. Can I come too? Please. I want to see the legendary Kraken of the legends with my own eyes. What? No, kids, we can't trouble the Saturdays. Max tried to stop them. Besides being rude, he also wanted them to stay away from any organization. After all, with what they had and what they could, who knew what those scientists could do? Sure, he had worked with them, and he knew that they were heroes who would and have saved Earth. But which scientist has been able to hold back from studying something they had never seen? The less people knew about the Watchers and their capabilities, the better. And besides, we're supposed to be fishing, while they're going to find a cryptid. Max continued, but Ben smirked, and as far as I can see they're going to be fishing too. Just that their target is a lot bigger than ours. So please. I don't see why not. Before Max could refuse, Doc patted his shoulder. We can go searching for the monster of the legends, then we can fish afterwards to relax. We'd love to spend time with you and your grandchildren, Max. And besides, this is the first time Zach gets to meet children around his age in quite a while. Drew agreed. With him being homeschooled because of our line of work, that doesn't get to happen much. So I'd love it if they could all be friends. Mum. Zach, like any kid would, got embarrassed. Drew simply raised an eyebrow. I'm saying the truth, Zach. You need to learn how to socialize too. Now you all get along while me and Doc get the submarine ready. Whoa, you have a submarine? Alistair wowed, making Drew smirk. We have a lot of things, Hon. Things that you'll love. As she walked away, Alistair's eyes landed on the jiggly ass bouncing with each step. Yeah, I can see that. Well, allrecht. Max sighed in defeat, smiling as Doc pat his shoulder lightheartedly. Don't worry, Max. I promise nothing will happen to your grandkids. Now Zach, Fisk, Komodo, get along with the Tennysons while we bring out the submarine. And started walking away. While Zach rolled his eyes, Fisk said something with a smile. Just like how he did again as he turned to the three children, waving with a friendly smile. Hey Fisk, I'm Alistair. Nice to meet ya. The Noirette smiled, holding up a hand which the Lemurian shook excitedly. Hello. Fisk said, shaking hands excitedly with Ben and Gwen too, who ended up laughing at the cute gentle giant. Hi big guy. He stepped back, standing next to his adopted brother who attempted to smile. Hey. I'm Zach, as already introduced. And these are Fiskitten and Komodo, also as already introduced. Hey you all. The cousins greeted. Alistair pointed at Komodo, smiling. Can I pet him? Folding his arms, Zach smirked. If he lets you be my guest. Obviously, the reptile didn't seem to be so friendly to strangers according to him. Alistair smirked, accepting the challenge. Fisk mumbled something, probably telling him to not let the Noirette do this. The boy was friendly and kind after all, he didn't want to see him hurt. But Zach just scoffed lightly in challenge. It's alright Fisker. Alistair's pretty sure of himself. Little shit. Fine, I'll play with you. Concentrating, a small, almost invisible red light glowed in the center of his red eyes, and Komodo, who was glaring at the hand gently approaching him, visibly relaxed. And unlike what Zack had expected, the usually grumpy Komodo easily let Alistair pet his head gently. Glancing at Zack, he saw his mouth wide open in shock, with Fisk sharing the same shock. He smirked. "Yeah, in your face, bitch. I'll use your powers to make your pet putty in my hands." Words finally left the shocked boy. How did you do that?" Komodo doesn't let any stranger touch him. His inhuman brother nodded rapidly beside him. The illegally handsome illegal boy smirked smugly. "What can I say? Animals just tend to love me a lot." Chapter 13, CH12, The Search for the Kraken, E3. A/N. I'ma be honest, I actually like our ghost more than the main characters beside Drew. Bro has so much charisma. He's not rude or over the top like other villains, he's seriously a gentleman. Just an evil one. I seriously cheer for him and hope he wins whenever he shows up. Also, the animators and writers knew what they were doing with having Drew tied and hung by her legs spread in the air in episode 21, my guys. Alright everyone, hop on. The submarine pulled up, and Drew opened the entrance to invite everybody in. Alright, let's go. Zack smiled, Fisk saying something excitedly. Whoa, an actual submarine. Smiling excitedly, Ben quickly rushed in. Let's go. Gwen urged Alistair, who raised an amused eyebrow. I thought you didn't want to come fishing. Causing her to roll her eyes. That was before the Saturdays showed up. Do you expect me to leave all the fun and the trip in a submarine to just you two? Tough luck. Now let's go. And dragged Max, who was holding the fishing rods and the baits. Alright, I guess. He shrugged, following after them. You're a lot calmer than your cousins, huh? Drew, standing beside the door, smiled as she closed the door. Alistair smiled. Nah, I am excited. I'm just not one to lose myself easily, I guess. Ha ha ha. Well, it's a good thing to have a clear and collected head on your shoulders. She patted his head, walking in. The closeness of dat ass to his face made his mouth dry, but he remained calm. He wasn't a freak, after all. Asterisk sniff asterisk. When he took a deep breath to calm himself, he caught the scent of something sweet. Something he had never smelt before. Something that for some reason, he instinctively liked. Asterisk sniff sniff star dot. He smelled again, to track down where it came from. Alistair had noticed that his senses had begun to develop and grow stronger ever since he had first woken up. He had assumed it was because of his constant transformations, and the predators in his Nemetrix having an effect on him, something beyond just affecting his instincts and psychology. So by all means, he had expected to be able to track down the smell. But unlike what he had expected, he failed. He had expected it to be from Drew. Who wouldn't imagine her having an amazing smell? But even though she did smell good, the smell didn't originate from her. It was kind of just in the air. Oh, whatever. He shrugged to himself, deciding to focus on the inside of the submarine. It wasn't every day that he would be inside of a submarine after all. Looking around, he was impressed at the technology. Although his intelligence was still that of a human, after consistently transforming into genius, aliens with 30-digit IQs still had worked its magic into him, knowing what things were and what they did. Whoa, this place is awesome. Ben said excitedly, looking around. Gwen agreed for once. Although it was quite small for a submarine, just a mini one that fit several people inside, it was very technologically advanced. Well, children, be careful not to lose your footing. Doc sat on the piloting chair, and after pressing several buttons, the walls of the submarine came down to turn the submarine into a boat. Now that I didn't expect to see. Gwen looked impressed. Zack smiled smugly beside her. There's a lot of things to us you wouldn't expect to see, but you'll end up seeing. He. I'll have to see if that's true with your mom. Alistair smirked to himself. With the submarine now a boat, they had come out to enjoy the fresh air of the lake and the sight of the beautiful clean water while Doc drew the boat and Max talked with him. He saw Ben trying to start a conversation with Drew. To be honest, now the entire 10-year-old kid having a crush on a MILF and thinking he'll be able to riz her up looked really cringe. Seemed like Gwen thought the same, because her side eye to Ben was wild. Worst of all, he's been acting cringe like that for a bit. Goddammit, I don't want to be cringe, but how am I supposed to pass out on that premium MILF booty? Shit, I need to find a way to quickly grow up or something. It's not like being an actual 10-year-old or acting like one is exactly fun. I wonder if I can do anything about it with the ultimate function in the future. Ben, smiling shyly, so is there anything we know about this Kraken, Mrs. Saturday? Drew, of course. We have to know something about cryptids before coming for them, after all. Apparently, sightings go back hundreds of years on this very lake. It's believed to be a myth, but so is every other cryptid that we've seen with our own eyes. Ben, so how are we gonna find this thing then? It hasn't been seen much for it to be considered as just a myth, right? Drew, smirking, with sonars, ultrasound, and basically anything you can name that's used for finding creatures under the water. So this is, like, your full-time job? Alistair joined in, receiving a glare from the hero. But he just smirked back quickly, before smiling up at the mature beauty, marveling at how he needed to stand beside her, since standing closely in front of her would render her unable to see him thanks to her personally. Titties, discovering mythical creatures and venturing around the world to find them? Chuckling, the MILF folded her arms under her voluptuous breasts, causing them to bounce a bit. Sounds pretty fun, right? And it is, honestly. Finding marvelous beings and witnessing their beauty and amazing features that made them mythical is just fantastic. But this job, although amazing and fun, still does have its own flaws. For example, it gets pretty dangerous sometimes too. And finding the cryptids who actively try to hide, or they're only mentioned in legends and there's not even a clue about their whereabouts, can be one massive headache. Alistair, but that's also part of the charm, right? It's like treasure hunting. It wouldn't be fun if you could do it easily and get over with it like it's nothing. Drew shrugging, true. I guess the difficulty makes it pretty fun too, since we have to get smart with where we can find it. Alistair, and I guess it pays, huh? Considering the giant airship and this submarine/boat. Drew amused, ha ha ha, why do you ask? Are you interested in the job, kiddo? Alistair smirking, well, excuse me if I'd rather have a fun job like this where I can venture everywhere than have a boring office job. Well, I look forward to working with you, Han. Drew laughed, patting his head in amusement. But feeling his tip quality and silky soft hair, she smiled in interest. Oh wow, you have such good hair, Alistair. Your hair strands are thick and healthy, and their slightly wavy type looks really good. I think you have even better hair than me. And sniff sniff, your hair smells pretty nice. What brand do you use?
Ooh, shampoo.
He smiled in confusion, causing her to laugh out loud. Alright, that was my fault. It was silly of me to ask what brands a kid uses. My bad, dear.
Whoa,
there it is. Ben shouted, catching everybody's attention. But when what he had seen turned out to be some big wood with trash on it, he smiled awkwardly. Oh, my bad. But the fact that he stopped Drew and Alistair's conversation made it worth it. Drew ruffled the noirette's silky soft, enjoying the feeling of running her fingers through them for a moment, before she pulled away. Alright, I'll leave you kids to have fun. I'll be inside to be on the lookout with document. As she walked inside, Alistair side-eyed the Tennyson, causing him to smirk with folded arms. He smirked back. Oh, it's on, Tennyson. It's on. Causing a shiver to run down the teen's spine. Ben looked away, and immediately whispered a disgusted sound, EW. Check that out, dude. Catching Alistair's attention. Leaning forward to get Ben out of sight, he saw Zack attempting to riz Gwen up. His flustered face and stuttering instantly gave it away. Why, you know, our submarine is nothing compared to our airship. He smiled the same way Alistair was smiling at his mom. If you want to, I can show why you around the airship and its facilities later. Really? Gwen smiled brightly, excited to see an airship that was even more technologically advanced than the amazing submarine she was on. I can do that? Will your parents allow it? Humph, of course. He smiled smugly, face a shade of red. The airship is kind of mine too, so of course I'm allowed to let people take a look at it. Gwen got even more excited, not even noticing the boys' advances. Then it's a promise. The boys looked at each other, before quickly covering their mouths to stop their laughter. Thankfully, only quiet snorts left them. Although it took much too effort to stop just at that. But besides theirs, they heard another quiet laughter. Turning, they saw Fisk covering his laughter like them. Alistair smirked at the primate feline cryptid. Hey big guy. You mind telling us what your bro's trying to do? And in answer, Fisk made it even harder to not laugh. He made a heart shape with his hands, and started sending kisses to the air. They couldn't hold back anymore. They broke down and started wheezing. The boys held their stomachs, including Fisk, desperately fighting for oxygen between their laughter. Obviously, the two heard them. Zack blushed, and immediately started swinging his fist. Screw you guys. It was hard to figure out what they were laughing at after all. Especially with their laughter intensifying after looking at him. While Gwen was confused, just thinking that they were being the usual idiots, Zack just looked away in annoyance, trying to ignore the annoying laughter of the three. After a bit of laughing their hearts out, Alistair wiped the tears in his eyes and gently nudged Fisk. Alright, you passed the vibe check, so you're cool. It's nice to meet you. Yeah, you're fun, Fisk. Ben nodded, causing Fisk to flash, A/N, his D a bright smile while showing a peace sign. For a little while, they just hang out. With Zack and Gwen joining in too. The language barrier with Fisk got in the way a bit, but his body language made up for it somewhat. Meanwhile, the couple and the old man smiled at the children having fun. Alright, we're about to reach the area where the Kraken most likely lives. Doc said after driving the boat for a bit. But Drew frowned at what they saw. Do not enter? What? She read the sign and the blockade blocking their way. Stopping the boat, they all got out to see what was going on. Max hummed, "Looks official. What should we do now?" Drew frowned at Doc. "There wasn't anything about this when we were studying this place. Did it happen just recently then?" Her husband frowned back, and she raised an eyebrow. "And how recent do you think our research is?" He hummed thoughtfully, "Fair enough. Then what's going on?" "Ha." Feeling a tingling sensation in the back of his head, Alistair frowned. But something pulled his attention towards Fisk. Humming thoughtfully, he started pushing him inside, where nobody could see. "What?" he said somewhat correctly, but his body language spoke of his confusion. Alistair shushed him. "Just stay here for a second and don't come out, all right?" And closed the door to the piloting room. "Luxury yacht, stop right there." Just as he came out, he heard a voice that attracted everybody's attention. Looking aside, they saw another boat pulling up beside them. Chapter 14, CH13, Kraken E3. A/N, it's my birthday today. I am Jonah Melville, the founder of Friends of Fish. And on the boat, a man spoke up with a friendly smile. "We've closed this section of the lake for an environmental study. You'll have to turn your boat around." Asterisk sniff sniff asterisk smell that? Alistair mumbled to Ben and Fisk, eyes narrowing in suspicion. "It's the bullcrap. And I don't even need my heightened sense of smell to smell that." Drew raised an eyebrow. "You've closed it off? With what permit?" And the man took out a piece of paper. Seeing the necessary words on the paper, she mumbled to herself, "With that permit apparently." But Doc was about to speak up, but Max interrupted. "Doc, as much as I don't like to say this, I don't think we should push this when they have a legal permit. We don't want things to get ugly when it can be avoided." Doc wanted to argue, but when Max glanced at the children meaningfully, he sighed in defeat. "Hoo-hoo, I suppose. All right, let's turn back for now." While he returned to the cockpit, Ben looked reluctant. "But what about the Kraken?" "The Kraken?" Jonah laughed with his co-worker beside him. "Not that old fish story. Look, I'm a marine biologist, and anybody who tells you they've seen a monster in this lake is casting without a hook." And returned to their own boat's cockpit. "That's what everybody says." Drew scoffed. "It's at times like this where I wish our secret work wasn't so secret." Alistair beside her nodded. "Right? Makes you want to rub the truth in their faces." "I want to rub a certain something on a certain somebody's face." "So what now?" Gwen asked. "Do we just leave the monster to some environmentalists who don't even know what's in the lake?" "No, we can't do that." Doc shook his head, not only because these people are way too suspicious, but also because dealing with cryptids is our family's job. No other group or such can deal with them. "What should we do then?" Alistair asked, and Drew answered, "First things first, we must do a little more research on these people and see if they're telling the truth. But even if they are, we can't just let the Kraken remain here, in a tourist spot. You've seen how many people visit here. And with Ben saying it just randomly attacked him, imagine what would happen if it suddenly attacked in broad daylight." Suddenly, Alistair felt the same tingling sensation in the back of his head. Looking back, he saw a giant fin sticking out of the surface of the water, causing him to sigh. "You just had to jinx it, huh?" "The sonar. We found something." The sonar began to react, and Ben pointed at what was following them, or something found us. "Look." Its fin disappeared as it dived deeper, and below them, they saw the shadow of the massive beast. As it passed them, the boat began to shake. "Hold on." Drew shouted, and everyone held onto something or someone. Worried about the boy beside her, she quickly hugged him so he wouldn't go flying away from the boat. "OMG." Alistair, with his head buried in Drew's big breasts, basically went limp. The softness he experienced in his face and around his head was something he could have only expected from a MILF built like a Pixar mom. He didn't even give a damn about the lack of oxygen. When the boat stabilized and she let go of him, he had the face of bliss that only a man who had visited heaven and paradise would have. "Is everybody all right?" she asked hurriedly, turning to see that Max had guarded Zach and Gwen while Fisk had kept Ben on the boat. "Yeah, we are," Gwen said, but Ben looked at where the Kraken was heading, but not them for long. "It's heading for the docks." Doc shouted, blowing the horn of the boat to signal the danger. But unfortunately, the people just gawked at what was approaching, and they paid the price by the giant beast with two giant tentacles coming from its mouth attacking them. As it destroyed the docks, the people fell into the water, prey ready to be hunted. "Damn it, Zach." Drew looked at her son, who had already taken out his equipment, a claw of a problem-huge bird, and pointed it at the giant marine beast. As his eyes glowed orange, the talons of the claw spread and glowed the same color. But he frowned after a moment, shaking his head in panic. It doesn't work. That cryptid is way too huge and powerful for me to control." Gwen raised an eyebrow at him. "Control?" Thankfully, he wasn't immature enough to boast now. "I'll tell you later, all right? This really isn't the time for explanations." And I couldn't agree more.
Hey, geniuses.
She shouted at Alistair and Ben, who turned to Max, Grandpa. Conflicted, the veteran gave up. Sighing, he turned to the confused couple seriously. Can you keep a secret? They looked at each other, before Drew raised an eyebrow. You're asking that from the Secret Saturdays? He nodded at the two, before nodding at the boys seriously. Go. And be careful. Nodding with smirks, Ben activated his watch, unable to wait any longer to show off to his first crush, Ripjaws to the rescue. And in the confused eyes of the Saturdays, slammed the watch down. But when the intense light faded, instead of the marine alien, the speedy XLR-8 was in his place. Rolling his eyes hard, Alistair's blood pressure rose. Hey, I said Ripjaws, not XLR-8. Stupid watch. He cursed the alien device, while the strangers stared at him with wide eyes. Alistair, unable to hold it back anymore, barked at last while pointing at Ben accusingly. And that's why I tell you to not slam that thing, you idiot. Huru, oh whatever. Activating his own watch, he pushed it down to transform. And when the intense red light vanished, he stood there as the red alien resembling a manta ray, Mant Astral. Confusing XLR-8, don't you think we need some muscle to take down that thing? Can't, this place is too crowded for me to start a battle of the Titans. Mant Astral shook his head, and my only flying giant is Flightmare, who we both know is way too gigantic. Other than that, none of them can fight in the water. Alright, here's the plan. I'll distract the Kraken, you quickly rescue the people. Got it. XLR-8 said before running off, and Mant Astral flapped his wings to take to the sky at a speed rivaling XLR-8's. Ah, Mux. Drew, along with her entire family, looked at Max in shock and confusion. The veteran smiled awkwardly. Yeah. Ahahaha. Let's leave the questions for later, alright? Flying towards the beast, Mant Astral's eyes glowed before two green lasers were shot at her head, causing her to scream in pain. Hey Fugly, how about you mess with someone your own size? Unidentified DNA detected, proceeding to scanning. New cryptid DNA unlocked, Kraken. Grar. She roared angrily, but Mant Astral shot another laser beam from his eyes and tail at her throat, causing her to gag and roar in pain, and for him to snicker. Yeah, don't expect me to not do anything when you shout at me. Below, while the Kraken's attention was on Mant Astral, XLR-8 blitzed around on the water, saving anybody who had fallen in the lake, and putting them on dry land. Grar. With a roar, the Kraken's huge testicles moved to strike him in the air. EW, keep your fetish away from me. He said in disgust, maneuvering in the air to dodge her attacks and shoot laser beams at every chance. Of course, he held back. He only wanted to distract her, not kill or harm her. Especially not when he knew why she was angry. If not, he could have simply shot a concentrated laser beam through her eye to fry her brain. See, he wasn't so evil. But suddenly, the Kraken looked away and roared at a boat. Oh, no, we're still playing, Missy. Mant Astral was about to stop her again, but when he caught sight of her target, he smirked instead. On second thought, go wild baby. Alistair, what are you doing? XLR-8 shouted, before quickly sprinting to help the boat that the Kraken latched onto. Your mom. The space manta ray pursed his lips as XLR-8 created a water tornado to scare off the Kraken, which, surprisingly, worked for a moment, before it came back to take a crate. No, you don't. Suddenly, Jonah grabbed on the box, and didn't let go even when he was being dragged on the floor. Huff, I'll do it so I won't look suspicious. Mant Astral mumbled, before swooping in and shooting a more powerful laser beam at the Kraken, causing it to roar in pain before running away. Or swimming away in this case. Thanks for the hand. Jonah thanked XLR-8, before turning to Mant Astral, and the eyes. The speedster turned to him suspiciously. What's so important in that crate that you'd risk your life for it? Our lunch. He could have at least tried to make a better excuse. XLR-8 narrowed his eyes. You almost got munched for a few sandwiches? As did Mant Astral. Must be some top cuisine crap made by a 5-star chef or something. Out of nowhere, a tentacle sprung out of the water, grabbed onto the crate and took it before the others could react. Oh yeah, she manages to get her children back. I had forgotten about that. Well, no guilt trips for me then. Beep boop. XLR-8's Omnitrix symbol began to flash red, signaling his timeout was approaching. Oh sorry. Gotta run. He quickly started running in the opposite direction of the Kraken. Sighing, Mant Astral took to the sky. Thanks to not slamming and abusing his watch, his timeout wasn't random like Ben's. Almost there. XLR-8 mumbled hurriedly, sprinting towards the Saturday boat. I think but he timed out. Just as Ben was about to hit the water, and bounce on it like a small rock thanks to his previous speed, Mant Astral caught him midair. Gotcha. Alistair. Ben smiled at the smirking alien, not Alistair. Mant Astral. Causing the boy to roll his eyes, still smiling. Yeah, whatever. Thanks for the save, man. causing Mant Astral to chuckle, "Anytime, bud," as he patted him with his tail. When they reached the boat, Mant Astral put Ben down, before landing himself. Smirking at the shocked faces of the Saturday family, his hand gently slapped the Nemetrix symbol on his chest, causing a yellow light to flash, before he returned to normal.
Whoa, how'd you do that?
Ben grew shocked. Alistair shrugged, smiling. "A cool trick I learned recently. Transforms me back, and I can use the remaining energy to transform again since I didn't time out because of the energy depleting."
Pretty cool, right? Whoa, so I can do that too?
B asked excitedly, causing him to hum. "We'll have to see if your watch has that function or not. I figured mine out while I was studying it with BrainStation. So maybe yours has it too. If it does, it will be very useful considering how much you get the wrong aliens."
Yes.
Ben cheered, while Alistair hummed to himself thoughtfully. "You know, it had completely slipped my mind since it was used only once or twice, but now that I think about it, wasn't there a master control function for the Omnitrix? Unlimited transformation and transformation with just a thought to any alien or between aliens. If I remember correctly, didn't original Future Ben's son unlock it with grey matter?" I don't remember completely since I watched that episode only once and so many years ago." With a light bulb lighting up over his head, he smirked to himself. "If a little twerp like that could do it, why wouldn't I be able to? Ha 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 ha, the disrespect is going to be advanced to even higher levels." Chapter 15, CH14, Remixes, Echo Echo's Best Power, E3.
Whoa, wait.
So you can each turn into 10 different aliens.
Aliens.
With the Tennyson and Saturday family, along with Alistair, sitting beside the rust bucket a little while after the battle with the Kraken, Zack said with excitement, "That's sick." And opposite of their moods, everybody else was packing quickly and leaving the place. Staying in a place where a monster shows up wasn't something the sanest of people did. Except superheroes, of course. $$ and. Fisk nodded rapidly, equally excited and interested. Just the thought of it was pure excitement for the boy. He had sci-fi sitting right in front of him. 2 of them. Alistair smirked. "Not exactly. Ben can transform into 10 aliens, while I initially had 10 aliens and predators. But predators are more my thing than aliens. If I can help it, I leave aliens to Ben most of the time." A/N, I felt bad for the best character after Drew not having any dialogues, so just deal with that LOL.
Whoa.
Zack and Fisk wowed. Drew gazed at Alistair curiously. "Wait, so those watches just came crashing from space suddenly? And you were in one of them, Alistair?" The boy nodded. Without any memories though."
Interesting.
She pinched her chin, eyeing him up and down, trying to spot any difference between the boy that supposedly came from outer space and a normal preteen human. Alistair did feel a bit shy and fidgety under her focused eyes, but didn't do anything to stop her. Being stared at so hard and intensely by a gorgeous MILF like her wasn't bad at all after all. Doc hummed thoughtfully. "Max, is this what you talked about when you asked us about keeping a secret?"
"That's right."
Max nodded seriously before getting up. "But Doc, can we talk in private for a moment?"
Drew spoke up. "Should I come too?"
But Max shook his head, smiling. "No, I would appreciate it if you kept watch on the children. As you would expect, they're very prone to mischief."
"That's not true,"
the 2 boys said in unison, before Alistair himself and Gwen gave Ben the bombastic side eye, causing him to cough awkwardly and turn away. The adult men walked away, and when far enough, Max turned to Doc. "Listen, I know myself that you guys are good people. I've worked with you in the past, and know that myself. But just your family doesn't represent the entire secret scientists. And I've seen it myself, and you know yourself, that there are quite a few shady people in your organization. No organization is pure. I know that, because I've nearly lost my life because of people like this. Your face didn't exactly keep the fact that you were curious about Alistair and the watches a secret. But even then, you held back since these were just simple children who were involved involuntarily. But do you think everybody in the secret scientists is the same?" I understand, Max." Doc sighed in defeat. "After all, I know quite a few people personally who would jump at the chance to study the boy. And especially the watches. And if they can't be taken off, who knows what those guys will do to forcibly take them off." He nodded at the old man with a smile. "All right, I promise I will keep all of these a secret. I won't let the secret scientists know anything either." Relieved, Max patted Doc's shoulder. "I knew I could count on you." With what was worrying Max finished, they returned to the group.
"So what did I miss?"
Doc asked, smiling. "I don't suppose you exactly waited for me to ask the boys about some interesting things."
"Would you?"
Drew raised a pretty eyebrow, causing him to chuckle.
"All right, fair enough.
Especially not since these devices are just simply fascinating works of science. And as a scientist myself, I have to admit, I can barely hold myself back from bombarding the kids with questions." Amused, Drew folded her arms under her ample bust, So you don't think transforming into aliens has even a tiny bit of magic in it? Causing Doc to smirk, not in the slightest. Zack groaned, oh please, can't you two stop your bantering of science and magic for one day? These two can literally turn into aliens. And predators. Alistair clarified, making Zack smirk at his parents, and predators. I think that's a lot more interesting than your debate. Shrugging at each other, Doc asked, so really what did I miss? Drew smirking, oh nothing. We just found out how Alistair has a better naming sense than Ben. Ben, hey that's not true. Drew, sweetie, you named an alien forearms, because apparently he has 4 arms. I think between forearms and centimanes, I know which one is cooler. Ben, well, that's an exception. Drew, raising an amused eyebrow, what about Diamond Head? Ben, okay so those two are like that. But the names for my other aliens are pretty clever. Like the alien from before, who I've named XLR8. And besides, how am I supposed to know the names of giants and such from Greek mythologies? Doc, curious, is that another alien of yours? Ben, smuk, and he's super strong. Picking up cars and trucks is basically nothing for me when I'm forearms. Doc, ooh, so he has super strength. Then I assume each alien has different capabilities, huh? Ben, that's right. For example, I have an alien that can shoot super hot fire, an alien that's made out of diamonds, and that alien that you saw before which can run super fast. And that's just a few of them. Alistair, and for me, I've got an alien that's super huge and can increase its size to 60 feet tall, an alien that can clone itself and scream sonic screams, and an alien that can turn invisible, intangible, and can breathe ice. Drew surprised, ew that's amazing. Zack, wait, but I thought you said you had different aliens? What's this about naming the same alien then? Alistair, not exactly. Remember, I said I initially had 10 aliens and predators. And yes, my aliens were different from Ben's. But you see, my watch can scan other species' DNAs and add them to my collection of transformations. It has already scanned all of Ben's aliens, so even though I didn't have them at first, now I have them as well. Ben grumpy, which is totally unfair. Alien, hey don't blame me, blame these things creator. It's not my fault mine has extra functions. Drew, wait species? Not just aliens. Aliens have their own species, Drew. I thought that was obvious. Doc said, chuckling awkwardly and in fear when his wife glared, but that does make me curious too. Since you said it scans other species' DNAs, does that mean that even animals and cryptids aren't exceptions? Smirking, Alistair stood up, switched to cryptid mode. The symbol of the Nemetrix morphed into a backward C with a line connecting it to a smaller circle under it, switching from alien mode to cryptid mode. With the settings changed, the hologram of his available transformations appeared in red before he gently slapped it. As they covered their eyes from the blinding light, Alistair appeared in a different form entirely. Jensen Prozent Pfund. He said something that the Tennysons couldn't understand, but understood with his smug and proud mannerism. With the familiar tawny fur and primate feline appearance, he looked nearly the same as Fiskitten. But thanks to being the prime of his species, some differences were inevitable. Like the bulging muscles that made Fisk look skinny, the jawline gifted by Lemurian Jesus himself, and the overall facial differences that interestingly enough, showed the handsomeness. Ah. Cat Ape swung his head to the side, gently, dramatically, in slow motion, causing his beautiful fur to move with the air, looking photogenic as fuck. And as the Saturdays watched in pure shock, Fisk folded his arms, looking grumpy and saying something along the lines of show off. The shock of the Saturdays was justified. Sure, they were extremely shocked at hearing how the two could change into aliens, but seeing Alistair turn into what they were most familiar with, cryptids, shocked them a lot more. Whoa! They said, looking at him in wonder. Ben, matching Fisk's expression, looked up at him, so is that a new mode you've unlocked? Nodding, he lightly slapped his Nemetrix, returning to normal and sitting down. Yeah, unlocked it when the watch scanned Fiskitton's DNA. Pretty cool, right? Pretty unfair, if you ask me. He mumbled, rolling his eyes. Chuckling, Alistair ruffled his hair, causing him to pout. Realizing something, Drew's eyes widened. Wait, so if you can scan cryptids' DNAs too, does that mean that the Kraken was also scanned? The Noirette finished her sentence for her, smirking smugly as he activated the watch to display the red hologram of the beast they had confronted a while ago. They wowed in wonder, before Zack spoke up in excitement. Guys, can you transform so we can see your other forms? Please. Well, there's a little problem with that. Ben scratched his cheek. The watches have time limits of around 10 minutes. And unlike Alistair, I'm stuck in my transformation for that 10 minutes when I transform. And since it takes a few minutes for the watches to recharge and be usable again, it will take a while for you to see all of them. That can be avoided if Alistair here is willing to put up a show though, considering he can apparently switch between transformations. Actually, on that subject, Weren't you going to help me with seeing if my watch has that function too or not, Al? Actually, on that note, the Noirette snapped his fingers, grinning at remembering something. I have an awesome idea. Getting up again, he held up his watch, switched to alien mode. And so did the Nemetrix, switching from cryptid mode to alien mode. Before lightly slapping it. Remix. When the light faded, a short alien in a white suit with black lines and a headphone appeared. Ben raised an eyebrow. How exactly is that going to help with what I asked? Did you finally transform into what you didn't want to, like how it happens to me so many times? Unlike you, Ben, I don't abuse my highly advanced alien device. Remix said dryly, so no, that didn't happen, and just doesn't happen as you've seen for yourself until now. And no, I didn't mistransform. I just wanted to try this. With a beeping sound and a light shielding him for a moment, Remix duplicated into 3. Max and Ben looked confused, and even Gwen looked up from her laptop to see what he was trying to do. While the Saturdays were just surprised at how the new alien could self-duplicate. The Sonorosians nodded at each other, smirking nervously and excitedly, as they lifted their hands and lightly slapped the Nemetrix symbol on their chests at the same time. The good old red light flashed, but this time, there were 3 of them. After shielding their eyes from the light, the group turned to Alistair, blinking his eyes. Their eyes. A/N, I just noticed red, Ben, and yellow, Alistair, are for when the watches time out, so since Alistair transforms back instead of timing out, it just flashes red. It was my mistake previously. As the Noirette blinked his eyes, feeling an unfamiliar sensation of internally missing something, he looked to his sides for confirmation. And as he did, he clarified his succession. He had succeeded in what he had considered one of the biggest, if not the biggest wasted potential of the entire Ben 10. Echo's ability to turn Ben into several people. But now, as he looked into his own eyes beside him, which he definitely noticed more wildness, arrogance and crave for violence inside of, and his other eyes on his left, which held more compassion, kindness and gentleness than his normal eyes, he knew that he had succeeded. Chapter 16, CH15, ENDE3. Also, I'll say this so I won't need to every second. D is always smiling gently, his lips are just naturally curved upwards. N is 24/7 that SpongeBob meme that's looking at the ghost, and he always has one side of his mouth curved up in a smirk, always ready to throw insults and roasts. Whoa. It worked. The 3 Alistairs pointed at each other. The meme gods would be proud. They were all smiles, looking at each other in wonder. It seriously freaking worked. What worked? Why are there 3 of you here? Gwen asked aloud, pulling their attention. Looking at the group, they noticed their baffled looks. Even the Tennysons were shocked at this point. Humph, do you even need to ask? The cocky one scoffed with a smirk. Obviously my intelligence resulted in my making the best use of one of my favorite aliens. Gotham, ami smart. Seeing their still confused expressions, the normal-looking Alistair gave a short sigh, eyebrows raised and unimpressed. How is that hard to understand? Look, so Remix can duplicate itself, but all of them are still Remix. I used that ability to duplicate while Remix, then transformed back at the same time. It's really not that hard to understand. The concept, maybe. Ben said, but you're talking as if it's just the most casual thing ever. And why are you all acting so weird? Placing a hand on the neutral's shoulder to stop him from rolling his eyes, the much kinder-looking Alistair smiled gently at Ben. Benji, it's not that we're acting weird. Let me explain since these 2 might be a little mean with words. It's not my fault if they fail to understand simple words. He mumbled, checking his nails as N shrugged, showing he somewhat agreed. Causing D to sigh, come on you 2. Don't be so rude. Getting an idea, he smiled, looking like he wanted to calm 2 children. It is a pretty awesome feat, after all. It's normal for them to be surprised speechless for what we pulled off. Halting at blowing his nails, he glanced at nowhere, contemplating D's words, before he smirked smugly. Well, that I can agree with. Alright, I guess they have the right to be baffled at our awesomeness. N just shrugged nonchalantly. I don't care as long as they get the gist of it. Just hurry up so we can do what we were planning on doing. And sat down with E next to Ben, who looked at them in confusion. Alright, then I'll explain. D smiled, sitting down as well. So what happened is just as N explained. I took advantage of Remix's duplicating ability, and managed to duplicate my normal, human self after transforming back. Pretty cool, right? I guess it makes sense. As for actually working, I would have been amused if you had told me before I saw it myself. Max said dryly, looking at them all. So what's with the way you 3 act? And which one's the real Alistair? All 3 of us. He answered with a smirk. Let me put it in the simplest way possible. Consider Alistair as a cake, which I absolutely am, that has been cut into 3 pieces. Now where is the center part of this cake? In all 3 pieces. That's right. N nodded. So the reason for our differences in behavior is that my main personality has literally been divided into 3 pieces. From what I can see, to my left is the kindness, me as the neutral, and to my right is the cocky one. Does that explain what you call each other? Gwen raised an eyebrow, causing Dee to smile brightly. As smart as ever, Gwendolyn. Just as I would expect from you. Making her smirk as Dee continued, and yes, that's right. My name is D for devotion the kindness. N raised his hand nonchalantly, N for null the neutral. E spoke while still sporting a smirk, E for ego the jerk at your service. I don't think you're a jerk. D smiled kindly, stroking the back of E's head. E rolled his eyes, but didn't push his hand away, and neither did he stop smirking. Instead, he leaned into the touch. Don't give me a reason to prove you wrong, D. Also, I would have gone with C for cocky, but was stuck with the idea of our names spelling Yendi, so here we are. So even you guys didn't know he could do this? Drew caught their attention, causing E to scoff. Who was going to know, Gwen? PFT, I would be humored if she took her eyes off of school applications for a minute. Or who, Ben? That's not even a joke, monkeys are more creative. Ben looked offended, hey. And Gwen glared, I guess you're living up to what you described, jerk. Causing him to snicker, good job, you just announced the obvious. Need an award for that. Ooh, come on, E. Poor D looked like a tired mom, looking at E with pleading eyes. Sighing, E rolled his eyes, his smirk disappearing for the first time. Fine, I'll lay off. But only because D doesn't like arguments. Seeing the way his large missing piece of kindness smiled brightly, he found himself giving a small smile like N sitting between them. Even if most of their kindness was missing, because it was literally materialized, it wasn't like they were completely missing him. And besides, just having him around was enough to improve their moods. That's not permanent, is it? Zack asked, earning a nonchalant look from N. What do you think, genius? Of course not. We can just transform into remix and mix into one again. But his rude behavior, which clearly wasn't in his books, annoyed D, who gently jabbed his side, N. Before smiling awkwardly and apologetically at Zack, I'm sorry, Zack. They kinda got my rude side. Gwen raised an eyebrow, so? The entire side. Making him chuckle nervously like an innocent airhead. Elbowing N a few times, he whispered into his ear, we sure he's our kind side, and not our non-existent sissy side? NID before glancing at E and smirking dryly, you mean our very much existing Susie side? Geek. They shared a quiet snort, before coughing into fists when D glanced at them warningly. But seriously, this is amazing. Drew got up, walking up to them and checking them out from all directions. You can clone yourself instantly and even fuse into one just as quickly. This ability will let you save so much time and energy. And let me do so many fun things if you know what I mean. E whispered to N, both of them smirking. Even if separated into pieces, the horny was too powerful to be weakened. Ftahahaha, unti zetiklis. D giggled as Drew moved his hair, checking his hair and ears in amazement. But hearing the nickname, a vein popped on her forehead. Hey, I'm no auntie. I'm not so old as to be called auntie. Tilting his head innocently, D looked confused. But, you have son even older than me. And Drew felt like the vein on her forehead was about to pounce and D. Keeping her cool, she pinched his cheeks, smiling angrily. I said. I'm no auntie. Ugh, auntie. He groaned as his cheeks were pulled and pinched, trying to push her hands away as he grabbed her soft hands. But the way he was trying to stop a smile, and the way he tried to hold back little giggles showed he was enjoying teasing the older woman, which managed to make her angrier. Why you little? While the two were busy wrestling, not in the way End would have wanted, Doc pinched his chin, amazed. But seriously though, this is amazing. To be honest, I kinda thought you two were exaggerating your abilities at first. But now that I see it for myself, I realize just how powerful your transformations must be. Huh, just as you'd expect from yours truly, Alistair. He looked ever so proud. It's so like me to make the best use of my transformations abilities to pull off clever and amazing feats and tricks. As N drew on the ground with a stick, cheek resting on his palm, he glanced at Ben, unlike someone who just goes for brute strength. Hey, that's not true. Ben defended, I also do awesome things with my aliens. Didn't you see how I ran on water and even made a water tornado with XLR-8? He earned a criminal offensive side from the neutral, only because you have to since the watch gives you the wrong aliens. Which as I have said numerous times before, is because you slap the goddamn thing with all your might. Well. Ben looked away, pouting a bit. The fact that I come up with them at the spot is more impressive, no? Earning a boombastic side eye from E. You sure that's not because of the watch planting the instincts of the aliens in your head? Hence how you can fly and do crazy stuff even when it's your first time turning to those aliens. Ugh, shut up, Al. He grunted, cheek on his fist as he looked away in annoyance. Beside N, Drew and Dee's battle came to an end, not the one N preferred, and the MILF pointed warningly, I'm warning you, never call me auntie again, got that? I am not old enough to be called auntie, and just not old in general. Understand? Call me something else. Then, Auntie Drew? He tilted his head, faking innocence as he held his stinging cheeks, not the one Zen preferred, making veins pop on her beautiful face, smiling angrily. How is that supposed to help? That made it even worse. Ugh, goddammit, just call me Miss Saturday, got that? Well, okay, Miss Saturday. He nodded, before flashing a genuine cute smile. Combined with his features and the way he was holding his cheeks, Drew couldn't help her motherly side from finding him adorable. In the end, she pinched his cute nose gently. You're lucky you're adorable, you little weasel. I would have gotten a lot more violent if it was anybody else. The two were mostly ignored. Except by Ben, who simply grew more frustrated due to jealousy, and E and N, who hid a small, evil smirk. While he smirked in victory, Doc grew even more curious. It can even do that? Wow, those watches must be two of the most complicated devices in the world. Alistair. He was interrupted by the ever-so-nonchalant N. Call us End while we're like this. Alistair is for when we're whole. When we're a complete menace. E nodded, seemingly impressed. Preach. All right then, End, Doc chuckled in amusement. Ben said you can switch back and forth between the aliens quicker. Can I ask you to show me your transformations, please? And Ben's eyelids flew wide open in realization. Wait, that's right. I completely forgot. How did the subject suddenly change from checking if my watch has that feature too or not to you suddenly cloning yourself? End froze in place. Before they looked at each other. We forgot about it too. With smirks and smiles, the three activated their watches and were about to transform, if not for N and D catching sight of E's hand. Specifically, the hand that was pulled so far back like a trigger. Like how Ben's would. Cold sweat ran down their necks, and when the hand that was like the end of all came shooting down, Null quickly caught the sinful hand by the wrist. Chapter 17, CH16, Master Control, E3. A/N, Yendi won't show after this episode for a while, by the way. But when they do, you're going to love why they're around. You may be the cocky part, and glared at E, and arguably the evil part, but don't you freaking dare mess up the damn watch. Just Ben doing it is enough to raise my blood pressure. I don't need to see another person doing it. Seeing that even D was giving a disapproving look, shaking his head in disappointment, his wild smirk turned apologetic. Alright, sorry, I got excited there for a second. Letting go with a serious, all three of them transformed into the needed alien. Brainiac the Galvan. This one's lame. Said Zack, unimpressed and bored. It's so tiny. What can it even do? And Null felt veins popping on his little forehead. His separated personality had been separated accordingly. Bad and evilness to E, positiveness and goodness to D. So what was left for E? Simple, Alistair's passion and dreams. His emotions had been left for E and D, while his logic and interests had been left for N. So hearing Zack diss the alien that was one of his favorites, because it was the best at getting the job done when it came to his passion, technology, annoyed him to the point where he barely held himself back from jumping on him and crawling down his throat to rip apart all his organs. No, calm down, N. He took a deep breath. You're supposed to be the logical one. You can't kill someone just because they're so utterly fucking retarded that would be disowned if their parents didn't have so much patience. Just take a deep breath, and ignore the retard who's going to get his mom spit roasted later on. Beside him, E chuckled, knowing exactly why he looked like he was ready to kill someone. It was amusing. Alright, let's start. D. N rubbed his head, habitually trying to push his hair back whenever he felt annoyed when he realized he didn't have any at the moment. Nodding, Devotion turned around, showing them the Nemetrix symbol on his back. E and N didn't waste time. They poked the Nemetrix, causing its lid to open. And in the shocked eyes of the Tennysons, they started messing around with the internal structure of the alien device. We do this. Then this. Press that. Press that. Turn this. What about this one? That's... Oh, do this. After working on the Nemetrix for a minute or so, careful in messing with it, they finally dusted off their hands and closed the lids. Alright, that should do it. D, would you please? He nodded, before E and N felt like they were hit by the full force of a flashbang. Without even touching the Nemetrix, the place suddenly lit up in red and D appeared in his human form. Looking down at his hands and checking his body, he smiled brightly at his two counterparts. It worked. It worked. The two raised their hands excitedly. Whoa, what did you do? Ben asked in shock. A shock he shared with his grandpa and cousin. But D cut him off. Sorry Ben, we'll answer in a bit, alright? Just give us a moment. Can you transform a few times? N asked after rubbing his eyes, and D nodded excitedly. Once again, without even looking at the Nemetrix, much less touching it, the red light appeared and disappeared to show Winter, it works. And without even transforming back, turned into Mant Astral, it actually works. And again, for Remix to make an entrance, it seriously works. Looking at each other, they raised their arms to the sky. Huzzah! My intelligence triumphs once again. He turned to D with a giant smirk, hiding numerous mischievous plans behind it. Come on, transform back into Brainiac so we can unlock it too. He didn't hesitate. Transforming straight from Remix to Brainiac, N taught him what to do on E's Nemetrix. And knowing what to do already, they were finished even faster. After E also did a bit of testing in front of the flabbergasted Tennysons, they did the same with N. Once they checked that everything had gone according to the plan, they smiled meaningfully at each other. Transforming back into Remix, the feeling of doing so without even touching the Nemetrix, just with thoughts being amazingly satisfying, they fused into one. With just one Remix remaining, his smirk gigantic, he turned back with but a thought. Huzzah baby, it worked. As expected of me. I'm a freaking genius. But Ben had to ruin his moment. Seriously, what did you do? He huffed through his teeth, frowning at Ben. Seriously Ben, you couldn't let me enjoy my achievement for a second? Pushing his black hair back, satisfied with not being bald anymore, he smirked at his friend. Simple, I just unlocked what I'd like to call master control. Use Brainiac's brain to hack the watch and remove the limiter. Basically, no limits anymore. As you just saw, I can do whatever I want now. Transform by just thinking it, transform between transformations, and best of all, I no longer have a time limit. Pretty cool, right? Wait, seriously? Ben's mouth fell right open, cartoonishly shocked before his eyes lighted up. Do mine next. Please, Al, please. You promised to help me with mine too, right? I don't remember promising anything. Folding his arms, he smiled teasingly, and besides, helping doesn't exactly mean unlocking your watch's full power. Ben already knew he was planning to help him. It was obvious with his little smirk. And besides, as wild and messed up he was in a fight, Ben knew Alistair was a huge softie to his friends. With a big and impatient smile, he stood behind him, rubbing his shoulders. Come on Al. You're really going to leave me hanging and now unlock that function for me after showing me how awesome it is? Will you really be such a jerk to your best friend? Allrecht, allrecht. Alistair chuckled, rolling his eyes in amusement. Come sit down. And Ben obeyed with such speed and impatience that pulled a laughter from the others. With a red flash, Alistair turned into Brainiac. Just as he jumped on Ben's wrist, Max called out to him, Wait Alistair. Getting his attention, Max continued, Are you sure this is a good idea? You've said it yourself, the time limit might be there for a reason. Nothing bad will happen to you too, right? Nothing to worry about as long as we've got self-control. And Ben, I'm serious about having self-control, alright? Brainiac smiled before narrowing his eyes at Ben. If I'm going to unlock master control for you, I need you to promise me something. You will not be in your alien forms 24/7, alright? Just like, you'll only do it for a few minutes whenever you transform. Ah, but why? Ben whined, causing him to glare. Because of reasons that you wouldn't understand even if I told you. If you're in a transformed state for far too long, your own DNA will start to change gradually. Would you like to be stuck as a human/alien hybrid freak? What would you do if you turned into a human/wild mutt hybrid, huh? Would you like it if you lost your sight? What about turning into a human/stinkfly hybrid? Would you like it if sticky, slimy spit constantly oozed out of your eyes? Ugh. Everybody groaned. Especially the Saturdays, who hadn't seen Stinkfly yet. Drew nearly gagged. I really don't think I want to see this Stinkfly alien. Ugh, EW. You had to give the worst possible examples, huh? Ben cringed before sighing. Alright, I promise. You're right, out of everything that I'd take my chances with, turning into a freak is not one of them. Especially not one as disgusting as the one you just mentioned. Ugh. Attaboy. Oh, but I'm not doing it for free. He smirked, making Ben frown. Not for free? Then what do you want me to do? Arms folded, the Galvan smirked. Simple, you need to do all of my chores from now on. Be it when it's my turn to wash the dishes and whatnot, you'll do it for me. Deal. The brunette didn't even think before agreeing. Sure, cleaning everybody's dishes on two people's turns was annoying, but it was nothing compared to being able to transform freely. Ben was honestly afraid of what Alistair was going to ask of him for a moment. They shook hands with smiles. Good, now let's transform you. Activating his Omnitrix, Brainiac jumped on when it showed grey matter. With a green flash, grey matter showed up under Brainiac. Groaning, he glared up. Can you please get off me for goodness sake? Sorry. Brainiac stepped aside, helping grey matter up. Why did you make me transform? Couldn't you do it just like that? Brainiac shook his head. No, the watches don't open up like that normally. Only while transformed. Oh well, I'm not complaining. Grey matter shrugged, before turning around with a smile. Now come on, partner. Do your magic. Chuckling, Brainiac got to it. But unlocking the Omnitrix, he noticed something interesting. His Omnitrix. How can I say it? is less advanced than my Nemetrix. No, should I say less complicated? Well, mine can scan other DNAs, and has an extra predator mode, so I guess it's not much of a surprise. But if that's the case, then it's guaranteed that the creator of the Nemetrix is also Azimuth. After all, he's the only one who could make such a complicated device. But why? Something in my guts tells me that it wasn't just because of my wish. Oh well, whatever. Keep still. He slapped Grey Matter's neck when he was being too fidgety. After a little while, Brainiac was done and closed the Omnitrix. Alright, there you go. Now, just like me, you can transform limitlessly with just a thought. Ben didn't even say anything. Simply transformed with a giant smile into Diamondhead, oh yeah. Before turning into XLR8, ooh yeah. Then turning into Forearms, oh hell yeah. Thanks a lot, Al. Now I really owe you one. You're welcome, partner. Brainiac on his shoulder gave a thumbs up, happy that Ben was excited. He transformed back into Alistair, crossing his legs on the giant's shoulder. Just don't forget your promise. You got it. Forearms gave a thumbs up. Whoa, awesome. Zack wowed, walking around the Tetramand with stars in his eyes. This is so cool. Is this the one you called your favorite alien, Ben? Smirking smugly, especially when seeing Drew's eyes on him, Forearms folded his forearms. Yeah, that's right. And believe me, this dude is awesome. Yeah, I can see why. He said, Fisk nodding with him as they checked him out. Zack looked at Alistair. By the way, you didn't say what your favorite alien is, Alistair? Can you transform into it now that you can transform freely? My favorite, huh? Alistair hummed thoughtfully before smirking. Sorry, but my favorite transformation is way too huge for me to turn into. It's like my big boss. Whoa, even bigger than Ben. He pointed at Forearms, causing the Noirette to burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Oh please. Ben's Forearms is probably just the size of Flightmare's Talon. Bigger than Ben. Man, you can be really funny, Zack. Alright, geez, no need to show off so much. Forearms rolled his eyes, making the Noirette snicker. Why? So it's alright if you're showing off, but I can't. Alistair smirked at Zack. I can't show you my favorite predator, but I can show you my second favorite. Without even asking the Nemetrix to switch modes, he directly transformed into Predator. As he growled lightly, Forearms groaned at the feeling of his claws digging into him. Don't transform into something so spiky while on top of me, dude. Snickering to himself, he jumped off of him, landing beside Drew. Chapter 18, CH17, ZAR device, E3. A/N, have you checked the MC's info in the auxiliary chapters yet? While Ben was fooling around with Zack and Fisk, changing from one transformation to another, Alistair was laying beside Drew while as Predator, letting her pet and inspect him with document. No eyes at all. She hummed, checking his head, so no sight. Are his other senses powerful enough to replace his sight? Maybe vibrations? Doc presumed, 'cause I don't think his nose or ears are powerful enough to help him. Catching their attention, Predator pointed down and started writing on the dirt, echolocation. Huh, that's surprising. He mumbled, causing Drew to smirk. The fact that you were wrong, or the fact that this big fella uses echolocation? Causing him to roll his eyes. Chuckling, she stroked Predator's lowered scales. But seriously, this Predator is pretty interesting. Built like a tiger, scaly like a porcupine, and uses echolocation like a bat. Seriously, it's pretty interesting. The fact he can lower his scales to not stab and tear things is pretty cool too. I actually got startled when you rubbed against me with those scales, you know? She knocked on his head, electing a mischievous chuckle. Alistair didn't know why, but when he was specifically as Predator, he felt somewhat mischievous. Like doing harmless pranks and teasing people. Thankfully, harmless was emphasized. After all, this tank of an alien wasn't something anybody would want to see act like a bitch in TikTok. With a red light, he was sitting on the ground as Alistair, smiling mischievously. I can't help it. When I'm Predator, I get this overwhelming urge to mess with people. Causing Drew to smile in amusement, and what do you know, it has the personality of a cat. Making him giggle as the hand that was still on his head ruffled his hair. She chuckled at his antics. So what other aliens do you have to show us? You said yours are different from Ben's, right? Can you show us? That will have to wait. Guess what I found? Gwen suddenly spoke up. Hey doofus. Stop doofusing around and come here for a second. Ben stopped as heat blast. Glancing at Zack and Fisk, they shrugged before walking back to the group. Ben transforming back meanwhile. What's up? He asked. Gwen turned her laptop to show pictures of Jonah Melville beside dead exotic animals. I did a little checking on Friends of Fish and found out it's not listed on any environmental website. But I did find this. Jonah Melville isn't a friend to any kind of wildlife. He travels around the world poaching rare animals, then crates them up and sells them to private collectors. Wait, so they aren't here to study? Zack's eyes flew open, they're here to hunt her? But Doc shook his head. No, it's unlikely. To take down a cryptid of that size would require a lot of firepower. Are they here to capture it then? Drew frowned, but Alistair shook his head, pinching his chin thoughtfully. No. At least not exactly the Kraken herself. Earning a raised eyebrow from Drew. What do you mean? Ben, remember what the Kraken took? Ben nodded, and he continued. That crate smelled like the Kraken? Making the brunette confused. What does that mean? Did they take something from the Kraken then? Wait, do you mean? Drew's eyes went wide open in shock. And in answer, Alistair pointed at Zack. Zack, smells like Mr. and Mrs. Saturday. Even Ben understood what he meant. Being a mother herself, Drew's face immediately turned red in anger. Damn it, those damn bastards. She gritted out, barely managing to hold back from cursing profanities. Come on, Doc. We need to take care of them immediately. She got up with no hesitation. As much as Alistair enjoyed the beautiful exaggerated bouncing of her puppies, he had to stop her. Wait, hold on. I'm not waiting, nor am I holding on. She stomped her way away, not stopping even when he grabbed her hand to stop her. She simply kept walking, dragging him along. Just let me tell you something. He stopped in front of her, not breaking eye contact when she glared. We'll help, all right? I don't know about the others, but I'll help. But we can't do it right now. Realizing he didn't want to stop her, her gaze softened. She didn't stop glaring though. Leaning on her hip sexily, she beckoned for him to continue. Lowering his arms, he explained, look around you. There are still people around who haven't evacuated yet. The presence of people is why I couldn't pick a heavy-hitter alien. And if we go after the Kraken or that Jonah guy, if something goes wrong, all of these people will be harmed. Worst-case scenario, they'll all die. Do you still want to rush there if this risk around? Drew looked around, noticing the people she had ignored due to her motherly sympathy for the Kraken. Her frown and anger calmed down as she took a deep breath and exhaled. All right, I'm calm now. You've got a point. Of course I do. I'm Alistair. He smirked when she calmed down, causing her to roll her eyes. Her smirk betrayed the act though. All right, you little narcissist. Then do you propose we wait till they're all gone? That's right. He smirked, and after that, I won't need to worry about anything when I start frying butts. With a heavy sigh, she nodded reluctantly. All right, I'll stay cool for now. But after everybody leaves, don't even think about stopping me from teaching this bastard a good lesson. Hands up in surrender, he stepped away under her intense gaze. Wouldn't dream of it, ma'am. But something is weird here. As Drew also walked back, Doc said thoughtfully, I don't think someone like him could get an actual permit like that. It didn't look fake at all. Ben smirked. Do you think somebody pre-ordered the Kraken eggs and took care of these things beforehand? And earning unimpressed looks from everyone. Chuckling awkwardly, he did a motion of zipping his mouth. Ben has a point though. Alistair said, this guy's a lowlife. I mean, he literally gave his actual name instead of a fake one. He's stupid for a criminal. There's no way he would be able to get a permit. Someone must have helped him. This wasn't in the original, but the Saturday family wasn't either. Maybe something is different here too. Then we should be fully prepared. Doc started walking to the airship. I'll prepare everything on our side. You all meanwhile can relax and save your energy for later. After all, I don't think the Kraken is going to be able to distinguish between friend and foe when her children are in danger. Alistair hummed, then I guess I'll amuse myself for a bit. Before getting up and making his way to the rust bucket, picking up a few pieces of equipment, he walked back and sat down. But not before transforming into Brainiac. Whatcha doing? Drew sitting away from him asked, looking with curiosity at the pen-sized device that was projecting lasers at an unfinished device. He didn't look up as he replied, I'm trying to make a device. What kind? All kinds. What does that mean? Basically, I'm trying to make something that can turn into everything. Intrigued everything? How would that work? Like you and Ben's watches? Kind of, but not exactly. Instead of aliens, I'm trying to make a device that can turn into any technology. Be it simple things like TVs, phones, computers, gaming consoles, even toasters. To complicated things like cars, planes, spaceships, satellites. Extremely advanced ones, of course. Like the ones in sci-fi movies. Basically, anything that can be regarded as technologically advanced. That's quite interesting and ambitious, but do you think that's possible? No offense, but you're just a kid. How are you going to make something like that, which could possibly be a treasure in the entire universe if my imagination is right? That's the problem. That's where I'm stuck. Not the part where I can't, as in I don't have the ability and intelligence to do so, but the can't that means I don't know how I'm going to do it. And yet you call yourself smart. They looked up to see Ben, as Heat Blast, walking towards them with the Saturday boys. Untransforming, he sat down with the others. Brainiac glared. "Oh, I'm sorry, Ben. I had forgotten that being smart meant easily managing to make level 20 technologies that are capable of planet and galaxy-destroying devices. My deepest apologies." "Wait, you're making a weapon?" Drew's eyes widened, something of that caliber at that. "I thought you were making a peaceful device that can store technologies." "Weapons are technology too, considering how everybody uses lasers and energy-based explosions up there." "Peaceful? I am making this thing for peace." "You've got to have weight in your words if you want others to listen and stop fusing around." "How do you think we save the day?" "We kick butts and use violence. Villains aren't going to be HAAA, I came to destroy/take over your world, just for us to be like, no wait, that's illegal and will hurt people, and then they're like, oh I'm sorry then, I'll just go and let you enjoy your day." After all, violence isn't the answer. It's the question. And my answer is always yes. And besides, even if not for dealing with villains, I'm still a huge sucker for weapons. In fact, I'm mostly making this to restore all of my favorite weapons. Other technologies just come for convenience. Also, it's not like I'm making the weapons. I'm just storing them for fun. Think of the device I'm trying to make as a movable collection that can transform into whatever I've collected. I don't think that's safe though. Drew looked unsure. What if somebody else gets their hands on that device then? You do realize a lot of destruction will happen in that case, right? Like, a lot of it if there are devices that can destroy planets. That's one of the problems I'm facing. He frowned, focusing on the small spot he was working on. Obviously, people make it so devices like this can only work for them. And mostly, they make it so their own DNA is the password for the device. Which is a pretty solid method of making it so they can only be used by them. Me and Ben's watches are like this. They're locked to our DNA. But you see, the problem is that cloning exists. If someone manages to make a perfect clone of me, they would be able to take advantage of this device. Which is what you're worried about. So my solution is to make the password my soul itself instead of my DNA. Making it so only I can use it, since there is no way of replicating a soul, and I can use it in my alien forms too. After all, going extraterrestrial means my DNA changed entirely, meaning I wouldn't be able to use this device anymore. See, Ben. He glared at his friend. It's problems like this that have me stuck on my project. Not smart. He rolled his eyes, returning to his device. Mumbling in the process. How about I make a galaxy-destroying bomb with just trash found in a scrapyard, huh? Will that prove how smart I am? Geez, so grumpy. Ben mumbled. Drew was worried. Sure, the kid had done good ever since he had woken up with amnesia. But would she be honest if she said that she completely trusted the boy with a weapon of mass destruction? But all she could do was hope he stayed a hero. After all, she had witnessed him unlock the full potential of his device with her own eyes. And after seeing a few of those transformations, and hearing about a few of them, she figured he already had a weapon of that caliber already. All she could do was hope he stayed a hero. I need to keep an eye on him as much as I can. Sure, he may have destructive capabilities, but that doesn't mean he's evil or will definitely go evil. As long as he gets proper guidance, I'm sure he'll become a great hero instead. He has already shown the potential to be one, after all. In the end, instead of antagonizing the child who had no family or memories, she decided that giving him no reason to hate the world and become evil was better. Chapter 19, Ch18, Taming the Kraken, E3. So what are you stuck with? Drew asked curiously. Mom rule number 1, when dealing with children, instead of being bland and boring, you've got to be expressional and emotional. Got to raise him right if she didn't want the destruction of the planet or a future galactic dictator. And besides, the poor boy was an orphan. Or at least she assumed so since he didn't have any memories. She might as well show him some motherly love, treat him like a son even. After all, actually making it is the important part, no? Maybe I can help. She smiled. Can you? Brainiac smirked, causing her to flash an offended smile. Hey, I'll have you know that I'm a genius scientist myself. And even if I can't help you solve it directly, I can still give an imaginative idea. Ha ha ha, Sure. He rolled his eyes in amusement. Well, the actual problem is the medium of the device. No matter how much I try, it reaches its limit too soon for my liking. What I can store in the state I can make is way too limited for me to be proud of it. Annoyed, he set aside the laser and untransformed. Sitting with a frown and kicking the dirt. Being a genius was hard too. It wasn't like his device wasn't already working. It worked perfectly, but its usage was too limited. Way too limited for his technological standards, which had been raised to the max thanks to his Galvan and cerebrocrustacean transformation. It was annoying, but fulfilling at the same time. Having a challenge he knew he would succeed in, but needed hard work to complete with a perfect score, felt satisfying. No pressure, just impatience brought by ambition. Don't worry, Al. I'm sure you'll succeed. Max comforted by patting his back. You're a bright and smart kid after all. I'm definitely sure you'll succeed. I just hope you'll make sure that it's not used to harm the innocent. Ha 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 ha, don't worry, I know. He chuckled, leaning back on his hands and looking at the clear sky. I have no reason to harm those that just want to live their lives without bothering others. The two adults felt a sense of relief, before he laughed cheerfully. But man, would I be lying if I didn't want some villain to try something so I could fry and blow them up? Boom, boom, boom. Explosions everywhere. You don't really sound like a superhero right now. Zack deadpanned, and Alistair smirked at him. And you'd know all about superheroes, cryptid boy? Causing an offended look to appear on his face. Excuse me. Hey, I'm the superhero-est superhero there is on Earth. And I've been doing this a lot longer than either of you two. Doing what? Fighting bad guys? Kicking villain butts? Ben smirked, as did Alistair. I can't begin to imagine how powerful the fleas on exotic and rare cryptids are. Followed by Ben, yeah, just imagining the weapons of mass destruction they pull out gives me shivers. Ftahahaha. No longer capable of holding back, they both burst into laughter, causing Zack to fold his arms in annoyance, face scrunched up in a deep frown as he mumbled, "Shut up. Hey, you two better not make fun of my baby boy." Drew glared, pinching Alistair's ear softly, but managing to embarrass said son in the process. She raised an eyebrow. What? I'm trying to look out for you. That's not how it goes with boys, Mrs. Saturday. The Noirette hissed softly, smirking. Mothers aren't supposed to butt in the trash talking of boys. That will only lead to further embarrassment and teasing later on. Especially a mother with your butt will become most of the subject in teasing. Drew narrowed her eyes. So I'm just supposed to sit aside and let you make fun of my son? Causing him to roll his eyes. We're not making fun of him. We're just having fun. Things like this happen in every boyfriend group. If a guy actually gets offended by something like this, that means he can't take a joke and will actually be disliked by the other guys. Right, guys? It's the truth. Ben smiled, while Max chuckled. He's right, Drew. These things happen all the time. I've lost count of how much I've been made fun of by my friends and how much I've made fun of my friends. You should just leave the boys to be boys. Fine. With a sigh, she rolled her eyes and smirked. I'll let you guys have your own style of fun. And finally let go of Alistair's poor ear. Rubbing his ear, he looked around. So what should we do while we wait? How about you two actually show us your aliens? Drew smiled, and Zack's face immediately lit up. Right. Ben just randomly transformed, so we couldn't actually see it, and Alistair only transformed, like, twice. You can show us their powers too. Fisk nodded in excitement with him. Alistair shrugged. I don't see why not. As he got up, he received a challenging smirk from his best friend. Then how about we let them judge who has the better aliens? You said Grandpa and Gwen judging would be unfair, since they were my relatives. But we've just met the Saturday family. So, how about it? His goal was obvious. He wanted to show off in front of Drew, his first crush. Is that so? Alistair mused, looking at him haughtily. I think you have Alzheimer's, Ben, 'cause you seem to have forgotten your place. Bring it on. Ben smirked, and green and red lights illuminated the place. A few hours later, when the sun had set, the group were inside of the submarine and under the water, moving sneakily to where the poachers were. All right, everyone, we can't fool around here. Doc said, I'm talking about you boys, understood? Understood, boys. Alistair glanced at Ben and Zack, who looked annoyed. What about you? You're one of us too. Ben glared. Turning to him, the Noirette raised his eyebrows. Ben, do I look like someone who'd mess around on a mission? I'm not a mirror, you know. Whatever. He rolled her eyes. Eyes on the road, well, water. Doc addressed his son. Zack, do you think you can control the Kraken this time? The reason why you couldn't control it before was maybe because it was too angry. But now, maybe it would work. Dad, I'd love to try, but I really don't think my powers would work on her. Zack rubbed his neck. It's not that there was resistance when I tried before, it was like my powers didn't even work on her. Drew spoke up from the co-pilot seat. Doc, if he can't do it, I don't think we should force him. There might be a rebound or side effect if he pushed himself too much. Thinking for a moment, Doc sighed softly. All right then. I thought we could convince the Kraken that we were allies. There would be any chances of her attacking then. But forget it if it could be harmful to Zack. Sorry, Dad. Zack sighed. Glancing back, Doc smiled softly. No problem, son. Your safety is more important to me. Looking at them, Alistair's heart ached. He couldn't lie, he was jealous of Zack. As more and more days passed, he felt increasingly lonely. He missed his family. He missed his parents. Fighting back the sadness, he hid it behind a smirk. Actually, having the Kraken on our side might not be so impossible. They shot him curious looks, but he didn't elaborate. Coming to stand in the middle of the seats, he used his cryptid powers to locate the Kraken before he pointed at where he sensed her. Go that way, please.
Huh? Why?
Doc looked confused. Is there something there, Alistair? But the Noirette just giggled mischievously. Just trust me, all right?
You'll see what I mean when we get there.
The couple looked at each other before Drew shrugged and they changed the way. But after a few minutes, when they arrived at the place, their eyes bulged out in shock. Shit, Alistair, why did you take us to the Kraken? Doc said, Drew following him. How did you even know where it was? Just as he was about to turn the wheel, Alistair grabbed it and kept it in place, causing them to continue. Even when Doc tried to turn it, it didn't budge under Alistair's hold. The boost in physical capabilities he got from scanning Zack's DNA was a lot, especially since it was at its prime, something that Zack never reached because of losing his powers as a preteen. He had already shown feats like fighting easily against adults, pulling down trees and fighting against Arghost, who was a Yeti, and that was when he was 11 to 13. For Alistair, who had gotten all of his powers at their most powerful states, overpowering an adult was nothing at all. The physical capabilities of a half-human/half-cryptid were nothing to scoff at. Especially not when that cryptid half came from Kur, a freaking dragon.
What are you doing?
The scientist looked baffled, eyes widening in panic when the Kraken spotted them and came swimming with a roar. Knowing that Ben was about to transform, Alistair held up his hand, signaling for him to wait. Trusting his friend and knowing he's not a dumb one, Ben waited with a gulp.
Al, what are you doing?
Gwen shouted in panic. We're to become fish food.
Ben, do something. Calm down, everyone. The Noirette said amidst everybody's panic at the approaching behemoth.
But his smirk only widened to a villainous degree as his eyes lit up in red. That included you. And suddenly, said Giant stopped in her tracks, coming to a complete and sudden stop in front of the submarine, causing the water to shake it along with them, scaring them even further, thinking she had started attacking. But when they felt no further shaking, they uncovered their eyes to see that the Kraken had come to a stop right in front of them, its giant eyes glowing red.
Alistair, you.
Drew, along with her family, looked at the smug boy with disbelief. Especially Zack. Checking his newly trimmed nails, the Noirette blew on them smugly. Are awesome?
Amazing? Fantastic? All of the above?
Ha 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 ha, don't worry, I'll explain everything later.
Alright, everybody ready?
Alistair looked around. Doc with his glow, Drew with her sword, Zack with his claw, Ben at standby and everybody else nodded. The Noirette turned to Zack. I've convinced the Kraken that we're allies. I'll leave it to you to send her my messages if needed, since I can't use my cryptid powers when I'm an alien. Zack nodded, serious and excited to act the hero. In fact, Alistair didn't even need his help.
Not at all.
Not when he could transform at will and in less than seconds. He could always just untransform, give a few orders to the Kraken, then transform again. But there was a huge problem with teen heroes like Ben and Zack. They could get seriously jealous. They were kids, so it was understandable. The problem was that it pissed him off, since these two didn't know when and where to be jealous. But no matter how much it annoyed him, he had to be considerate of the punks. At least until he beat them into shape and made them understand that there is a time and place for everything. Rescuing lives and missions weren't included in the places and times to be jealous at. Oh, he was going to beat the lessons into their thick skulls. And he was going to enjoy every second of it, oh, so much. Hope they liked Menace, Wrath as their teacher, because he was going to love it. See if you can find the eggs. Ben said as they started going up the ladder under the docks. While Alistair enjoyed the amazing view of Drew's wobbly ass as she climbed up, Gwen looked down at Ben and Alistair. What about you?
Do you even need to ask?
They smirked, raising their left hands at the same time before green and red flashed. Chapter 20, ch 19, Menace hates poachers. E3. After we sell these babies to the highest bidder, we'll be kicking back on a beach in the Bahamas. Jonah said greedily, nearly hugging the glass container containing the 2 giant Kraken eggs.
Yes, so be sure that the eggs aren't the only things that aren't broken.
A tall, muscular man wearing a mask and a jetpack walked out of the shadows, speaking with a thick Russian accent. Believe me, you wouldn't want to know what would happen if our deal was broken.
Leonidas van Rook.
An antagonist turned ally in the Secret Saturdays. And arguably one of the best characters in the series. Alistair loved his dry humor, sarcasm and love for money. The fact that he would flirt with Drew at every chance even when her husband was around was pretty funny too. Man had balls if money or Drew was involved.
I'd listen to him if I were you.
Another man, with mohawk-styled red hair, shaved sides and a physique suitable for combat, walked with him, wearing the same equipment. The money in this job is way too juicy for him to tolerate problems.
Oh, money. How much are we talking?
A strange voice said, alarming the criminals. Alarmed, they turned to see 2 weird flying creatures. One resembling a bug, white and green in color, and the other resembling a flying manta ray, red with yellow wings and wearing black shorts. Mant Astral continued with a smirk, mind sharing some? Van frowned at the strange creatures, but didn't hold back from aiming his wrist gauntlets. Sorry, but I hate sharing. Especially when it comes to money. Bullets fired by everyone in the cannery immediately started flying, as did Mant Astral and Stinkfly to dodge. Whoa, chill out, dude. The bug said in his squeaky voice, didn't your mothers teach you any manners? Shooting his green slime from his eyes, disgustingly enough, he disabled their weapons rapidly along with Mant Astral, who was making good use of his lasers. Ugh, damn it. The poachers targeted by Mant Astral cursed as their guns exploded thanks to the lasers, hurting their hands. Shit, what the hell is this stuff? While the rest cursed at the green liquid that rendered their weapons useless. You better wish my gauntlet isn't broken, you damn bug. Van Rook shouted, green liquid stuck to his and his apprentice's wrists. See if I don't squash you if that happens. Do you have any idea how expensive these are? Squash me? I wanna see you try. Stinkfly smirked, flying down with Mant Astral before bright lights blinded the poachers momentarily. Menace/forearms. Two shouts were heard, along with a tiger roar, come get some. Let me tell you something, you Goodman, waste of space poachers that Menace fucking hates. When the light faded, a giant tiger, the sexiest of his species, standing on two legs with one black claw coming out of each of his wrists shouted, Menace hates poachers. Probably more than any other criminal. So you better ready your fucking asses, because I'm gonna be shoving my fists up your fucking asses so hard that I'll pull your hearts out of your gaping holes that will resemble your mother's after I'm done with you. God damn it, what is this place? Monster Zoo. Van Rook's apprentice, Doyle Blackwell, as he tried to get rid of the slime encasing his weapons. He needed them if he wanted to fight against the giants that were running rampant. Boy, get the fuck off my face. Menace roared, punching an enemy and sending him flying. Being nice enough to gift him several broken bones. Wasn't he so nice? Forearms, with a battle cry, Sucker punched someone himself. Before grabbing another henchman and throwing him into multiple others. Hey Menace, catch. He threw someone at his partner, wincing when he punched him so hard the man flipped in the air. Arms spread as if free falling, with the world slowing down as if he was in slow motion. Poor received a punch that had all of Menace's anger inside. D. Somebody emptied a clip from behind the tiger, but he simply looked back menacingly, growling. Yeah, Menace was boss enough to tank bullets like nothing, before he delivered the mother of all uppercuts, sending him flying towards Jonah's miniature sub hanging by the tower crane in the lake. Get out of the way. Jonah shouted, punching his henchman away. What an ideal boss. Just as he took aim, another contestant made an appearance. Roaring, the Kraken broke through the cannery before punching away a henchman with her tentacle. Good thing she didn't grab him with it. Shit, just what the hell is going on here? Jonah said angrily, changing his target to the Kraken. His bullets proved to be different from normal ones, managing to push her back. Let me tell you something, you fucking poacher who's way too fucking annoying for just a fucking poacher. Menace pointed angrily, Menace doesn't appreciate your bitch ass attacking a mother who's trying to protect her kids. A red light flashed and Blitzer, Shock Squatch, appeared in Menace's place, so you better get ready to get some. Gathering energy in his hands, he shot a ray of yellow lightning at him. Eyes widening, Jonah gulped, oh no. As the electricity ran through him, his shouts of pain from the mini-sub were muffled and ignored. Luckily for him, Blitzer didn't use enough energy to fry him. Killing was annoying to get away with when you were living with superheroes. He had worse plans for him though. Apprentice, change of plans. Van Rook turned to the masked Doyle, improvise. Seeing his efforts in getting rid of the slime was futile, they both went for other options. Noticing them taking out grenades, Farams's eyes widened. Slamming the 4 henchmen in his hands together, knocking them out, he transformed into Diamond Head. Punching the ground, a crystal wall rose behind him and Blitzer, protecting them from the explosions. Shit, that wasn't supposed to happen. The mercenary frowned, before quickly jumping aside when diamond shards came flying at him. Taking cover, he grabbed onto a gun on the ground. Alright, this was not in the contract. I demand a raise. We won't be able to demand anything if this goes on. Doyle glared. Though it was hidden by his mask, his tone showed his seriousness. What should we do now, boss? There are some big guns we brought to deal with the Kraken. We can make use of those. Van Rook said, come on, go and bring them. Earning a baffled and offended look, you want me to go through this fucking battle zone? Why don't you do it yourself? 'Cause I'm the boss. Now get to it before we're turned into Swiss cheese or fried by that electric yeti. Rolling his eyes, Doyle cursed under his breath before checking the situation. Noticing a chance, he quickly started running. Now where are you running off to? Diamond Head smirked, aiming at him. but Van Rook covered him by throwing a few grenades. Diamond Head frowned at his own carelessness when he didn't have the time to create a defense. Transforming, he turned into XLR-8 before blitzing away from the explosion.
Sorry, too slow.
He snickered at the mercenary. Doyle rushed inside, but unlike what he had expected, he saw that everybody inside was knocked out and beaten up. Shit, as if those two weren't enough. He groaned when he saw the group that had dealt with his temporary co-workers. I'll admit, out of everybody I had thought of seeing, I didn't expect Van Rook to be here.
Drew pointed her sword at Doyle. Now are you going to do this the easy way?
Or the hard way? A word of advice, all of these guys picked the hard way. Then I'll pick the third option, out of the way, he said, grabbing onto the biggest gun on the wall and rushing back. With the Tennysons and Saturdays after him, he threw the gun at Van Rook, boss. Showing amazing strength, since that didn't look light at all. Turning to dodge a punch from Doc right away, punching his stomach while doing so.
Now we're talking.
Van Rook laughed, aiming at Blitzer who was running wild. Hey Fugly, eat this. As he pulled the trigger, it appeared to be a high-tech weapon as it charged up a laser before shooting it.
Al, careful.
Heat Blast shouted, but Blitzer simply grinned. With a flash of red, another voice laughed, with please. Before two tentacles with plugs at the ends moved towards the laser. With his arms folded, discharge feedback, absorbed the laser with a smug smirk. Thanks for the meal.
It was delicious.
While Van Rook just stood there in shock. Now this is some bullshit. Now how about I return the favor? The plugs on his hands flashed blue before he shot a ray of electricity at the mercenary. Shit. He cursed before he was blown away with a shout. As he crashed into the wooden building, he laid there tiredly. I should have listened to my gut feeling telling me to reject this job. Ugh. Doyle landed a bit away from him.
What's up, dear old apprentice?
He asked sarcastically, turning to see the group walking towards them. Seeing Drew, a smirk appeared under his mask. Ah, Drew, such pleasure to meet you here.
Are those your new pets?
Must have been some hella expensive ones. Those aren't pets, Van Rook. She glared. And what the hell are you doing here?
Poaching, really?
Causing him to chuckle. Ah, ever so cold to poor me. This isn't some regular old poaching, you know? What kind of poaching involves a freaking Kraken?
Oh, by the way, you might want to look out.
He nodded towards the tower crane. Turning, their eyes widened as Jonah returned to his senses and took aim in anger. If I'm going down, I sure as hell am taking you bastards who ruined this with me.
Look out.
Heat Blast shouted, XLR-8 taking his place and moving to stand in front of them. Turning to Diamond Head again, he created a crystal wall, shielding them all from the bullets. Discharge, you might want to help here. He shouted to his partner, who glared at the mini-sub. About time I dealt with you. With a red light, he transformed into Voltage, previously Ghostergy. A living current of electricity and the predator of discharge, feedback. Vita Tonatrui description, predators of conductoids and living currents of energy. These species enter the body of the conductoids through their plugs and move to the brains. Once inside, they begin to control the conductoid's body by electrical pulses to their brains and nerves, turning them into puppets and killing him in the process. Then begin using them as a means of feeding, using them to absorb energy until their prey's body rots and becomes useless. At that point the predator leaves the body to use all the absorbed energy to self-replicate in an asexual reproduction method. Flying into the air with Jonah noticing him, he sneaked into the mini-sub itself. Into the wires and machine, before transforming. Suddenly, while Jonah was grinning crazily, the mini-sub stopped working.
What's going on?
No matter how much he tried, no more bullets were shot. Out of nowhere, he heard a voice. Hello, we're here to inform you about your miniature sub's extended warranty. In case you want to continue using it, please feel free to pay up. The color of mini-sub slowly began to change into black and orange, emitting a sinister voice, with your life.
Shit, what the fuck is going in?
Jonah panicked, trying everything to get out of this situation. As Overdrive, a galvanic infectoid and the predator of upgrade, was about to envelop the arms of the mini-sub 2, electricity lit up on the arm, causing bits and pieces of Overdrive to be torn and fall to the ground.
I did not appreciate that.
He barked, turning the other arm into a blade and cutting off the arm that electrocuted him. A head began to rise from the control panel, glaring at the poacher. Sweet dreams, bitch.
And Jonah blacked out.
Galvanic infectoid description, predator of galvanic mechamorphs. This species' appearance changes depending on the phase of its evolution. Phase 1, black and yellow, it's minuscule, small even when compared to microchips, nanomech, and resembles a virus that collects DNA samples from galvanic mechamorphs to upgrade itself. Phase 2, black and light green, it grows to be half the size of a galvan and takes the appearance of a tick with sickles for hands. It becomes a parasite, but abilities and purpose are the same. Phase 3, black and green, it grows to the side of a dog, and it has evolved enough to infect galvanic mechamorphs and turn them into its minions. Phase 4, black and green, it evolves to be almost unrecognizable from a normal galvanic mechamorph. Lurking among them, it hunts at the slightest chance. Its powers grow tremendously with further evolution, and allow him to absorb technology to improve itself instead of improving it. Phase 5, black and orange, it has completely evolved after updating itself using the DNA of an infected galvanic mechamorph on top of the normal DNA.